Boo, boo, boo. 3. Oh, we're live. And you know what I did? I forgot to put on my shirt. That's too funny. Hang on a second. Main camera. All right. This is how you know we're live. Forgot to put on my sweater. But nonetheless, we are here, showing up every single time, on time, even if we don't have our clothes on properly on a live stream. We're going to make that happen. Right now. Oh, there we go. Okay, much better. Much better. Okay. It's going to get cold in here, so I want to make sure that I'm warm. And if you guys are seeing me already, or anybody's on the stream, welcome. Gonna get settled. It's cold over here. Oh yeah, it's very cold over here. And this is my basement, and it gets pretty warm. Now normally I have my heater on, but because of the sound and every single thing, I normally turn it off. So I'm gonna be like fine, and then go from like fine to cold. So welcome, sir. How are you doing? Hang on, I'm trying to get my live stream here going so I could see who's on the live stream. And Vibe Coding 101. There we go. Okay, sorry. There we go. Perfect. All right. It is cold. You're in central US, so I mean it's pretty warm for you too, right? Or cool a little bit, yeah. I think. So, at least if I remember your location, somewhere in Midwest, isn't it? Great. Okay. Hey. Oh, what's going on at this stream? Let me just refresh it. Hang on 1 second. There we go. To watching. So welcome. Thanks for joining. Mr. Simon, you're right on time. And we're going to try to dig right into things. I'm not going to get too crazy on a bunch of stuff, but I do want to level set. One of the hardest things about doing these streams is trying to figure out how much information, how much details I should go. Doing good, thanks. Kansas City. Yeah, today, 73. Oh, no, that's warm, man. Oh my goodness. I would be happy for 73, okay? Like, if you give me 73, yeah, I would be happy. I would take it. In fact, fun fact for you, I was like, you know what? It snowed. What was it? 2 days ago? Yes, 2 days ago it actually snowed, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, you know what? I have to get out of this country. I have to get out of this country because it's not even actual winters yet, and I feel like I'm already like, like I'm like, my mental health is going down. I'm like, and normally in the past, I was never one to complain about winter, but the truth is because I never went out the house. I lived in a condo, and I was like, fine. However, I got a son now, and he loves the outdoor, loves the outdoor. So, like this kid was waiting for the snow to fall. Like, so every single day he would ask me, "Daddy, is there snow? Is there snow? Is there snow?" And finally, the snow came 2 days ago, and he was so excited. So we went outside, we had a good time. We did tobogganing down the hill and all that type of stuff. Fantastic. But man, oh man, like, does it drain me afterwards? Because I just don't like being outside in the cold weather. So yeah, come to Kansas City. You know what? Listen, we might just do that. We might just do that. So yeah, fantastic. All right. So we're gonna try to jump into things. Hopefully, we'll get a few other people today. The algorithm gods will maybe push this out to more people, and we might have a few more people kind of joining us. And on the TikTok, I figured out a couple of things on TikTok. This is just me just thinking. So on the TikTok, I try to push people over to my YouTube. So if you really want to know what's going on, go to my YouTube. You'll be able to see properly what's happening there. So yeah. Okay. So let's do a little bit of recap for everybody, and then we're going to try to jump into a couple of things. And while I'm doing that, what I want to do is I want to take a little bit of step back this week here and also talk a little bit about the business side of vibe coding, because so far we've been kind of deep in the code, and I had a couple calls this week also. Thank you guys for booking, by the way. And by the way, if you haven't booked a call with me, book a call with me so we could go through sort of like your project and what is it that you're working on. Therefore, I could get a little bit more understanding of who you guys are, what is it that you're doing, and then we could figure out how to put you on track. But one of the things that I want to really kind of talk about a little bit before we kind of jump into the code, right? Because half of these conversations are about code and the other half is about business. And I want to make sure that we don't lose that. Why? Because it's important. And most of you guys might have, what I'm hearing so far is most of you, not all of you, but most of you have experience on the sort of the coding side, but not necessarily on the business side. And it's important because why are we here? Oh, this is a new thing for me. This Miro thing is my first time using it. So I'm just going to use this one because I'm not going to pay for it right now. So I'm experimenting with new tools. So one of the things that I want to make sure that we start doing if you're going to vibe code an application is how do you get an MVP launch as soon as possible? And I mean as soon as possible. Like I am not ready to launch this soon as possible. Like I'm scared that people will call me a fraud soon as possible. Okay, like that soon. And the reason for this is you could easily get into. By the way, are you guys hearing me okay? Like, is there some problem? Are we good? Make sure that there's no issues from a sound perspective. I look like I'm okay, but I just want to make sure. If any problems, just let me know, because I know last week we had a problem with the sound. So if you want to vibe code an application, you can easily spend just an enormous amount of time combing through all of the technical challenges, going deeper. I need to solve this database problem, and I need to fix things. Thank you for confirming that. I appreciate that. And you could really just spend just an enormous amount of time over analyzing the details of the product. I want to stress this, okay? If you're vibe coding for the very first time, you've never built a project before, and you've never had to support customers on a SaaS application, you will learn so much by just launching. And when I say launching, even if you don't have the project, launch. I'll tell you what I mean by that. I'm going to go through some diagrams to kind of show you what I mean in terms of that. But I want to talk about this because this is important, right? For my salespeople in the room, you guys kind of know this. So we won't necessarily, you might have to skip this part. But for my technical people that has never really done sales or business side of things, this is important. And if we're going to vibe code to profit, which is the whole purpose of this entire group and community, is we have to talk about this side as well too. Good. All right. So let me give you a real world scenario, because I was talking to one guy specifically, I'm not going to call any names today, that is 90% there with his app vibe coded. And then we had a conversation this week, and he mentioned to me that he was kind of ready. He just had a few more things that he wanted to get done. But then when we started talking about the business side of things, there was just a lot of holes in his knowledge in terms of what we need to do in order to get a successful app. And this is really, really important for me, for you guys to get this right, because I've struggled through this. Okay, I want to stress this. I have failed multiple times launching multiple apps, and I've learned a ton of things on what not to do. And I want to make sure that if we're vibe coding, that we're going to not do those same mistakes. Okay, so mistake number one, let's just talk about that. Let me see if my pen is going to work today, because last week I struggled. Number one, okay, Mistake number one is failed to launch too soon. So I'm going to say launch late. Let's just do it like that because I can't write on live. LAUNCH. Okay, launching late. That's mistake number one. And when I say launching too late, what do I mean? I mean thinking that you know the problem, trying to solve all of the problems, not talking to customers, and then spending more time iterating because you think that you don't have enough features to launch. And I know most of you kind of fall into this camp. That's why we're having this conversation, because I heard it earlier this week and I was like, you know what, this is something I need to talk about a little bit. So this is a really big problem. And I actually find that it's actually a real problem more with technical people. Let me explain what I mean by that. There's kind of two different people that would technically be vibe coding, right? There's the, let's call it the technical group, CHNICAL, right? You kind of have some experience. And then you have the non-technical group, okay? And I'm going to kind of put this in, so non-NON-TECH. Let's just do that because I can't write. Okay, TECH, okay? If you're non-technical and you had some experience with sales, I find that these guys try to get their stuff out as fast as possible. I actually find that they tend to do that. It's not always the case, but generally speaking, what I've seen so far is if you're non-technical, you tend to want to push your app out pretty fast because you're gonna do all of the sales things, right? Like you're gonna start from the sales page, you're gonna start pushing the copy, the marketing type stuff, right? Like that's basically what you're gonna be doing. But if you're technical, you tend to do the opposite. You tend to focus on the code in aspect of it, right? You tend to focus on the database. You tend to focus on the features, right? So all of the different features that exist. Features, right? And then what end up happening is you end up in a trap where you basically start with code, you do some database stuff, you add some features, and next thing you know, you're back to the database, you do some more coding, and you're just in this sort of endless cycle, just spinning and spinning and spinning. Whereas this tech person here don't have half the experience that you do, don't even know how to write the code properly, and they go out and they actually launch and they start talking to actual customers. Okay, and they're starting to get some sort of response from the customers. And they might not necessarily have the product, but they get the feedback. And it turns out that the feedback is extremely valuable for you to launch an actual project and for you to be able to launch something properly. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit more. Okay, so that's mistake number one, launching too late. And we're going to talk about how to address this problem altogether. How do I space bar? Come on. There we go. There we go. Mistake number two. Come on, get my pen. Number two. So this one, I'm definitely guilty of it. Okay. Overcomplication. Over COMPLICATION, or overcomplicating things, right? What do I mean by that? First things first, what are you doing wrong? You are not only adding too many features, you think that if you don't have these 10 features, nobody will buy the product. And this is also a fallacy because, as you know, you add more features, you get more complication. We're vibe coding. If you're technical, it adds more complexity to the code. It adds a lot more overhead in terms of like being able to debug the problems, etc. So adding more complications, or complexity is probably the other word to use to describe it, creates a problem that like it essentially just boils back to, the feature problem, right? You just kind of spiral in feature. But the reason why I'm bringing this up specifically is because when you have an overly complicated application, you muddy the waters in terms of who you're selling it to, right? Because what end up happening, who you're selling to, okay? What end up happening is you overcomplicate the application. You're not certain who your target market is because you might have 2 or 3 or 4 different people that you're selling to. And as a result of it, you do none of those features, you do well. So you end up in a situation where you're trying to compete with the big boys, right? So I don't know, let's say you're building a CRM system and you're competing with like HubSpot and Salesforce. You try to like build a whole bunch of features because you feel like if you don't have these features, then you can't sell it and you can't launch. So therefore, it's not a good product. So you keep adding more complexity because the user needs to be able to do 10 things. And what happens is your product is too primitive for somebody that's using, say, Salesforce or HubSpot or one of these, pick your CRM tools. And it's too complex for somebody that's never done this stuff before, whatever it is that you're selling. Let's say they've never used a CRM. It's too complex. So you get into this weird situation where you're kind of selling to experts, but you really and truly you're talking to entry-level people and you don't have a clear ICP, right? This is the other word that we're looking for, ICP. Okay. So this is also important. This is super, super important to make sure that you get right. Now, obviously, the opposite of this is do not complicate things, right? So we can talk about that in a bit. So we're gonna talk about all 3 of these, and right, these are the things that I see over and over again that just prevents people from launching their app, and you just end up sort of spending way too much time doing things. This last one here is, how would I describe it? It's so you overcomplicate, you launch late, and then you get into a price war. What do I mean by that? So I don't know why I can't press a space bar. There we go. Price war. P for pen. I'm learning Miro. You get into a price war. And by price war, I mean an artificial price war. Okay, oops. This one here. So what do? You say, oh, my, let me see, you got a question here, Simon. How do you address first impression makes or breaks it? Okay, yeah, when you launch so quickly and your product fails at the first stage of authentication, does that make it harder to get clients' trust? Yes, we're going to talk about exactly that because that's a real thing. We're going to talk about it. I'll tell you exactly how to deal with it. Very good question. Extremely good question, actually. So, price war. Let's finish up the third one, and then we're gonna circle back. I'm going to address every single one of them. All right. So price war. Here's what typically you will do. And again, every single one of these things, I want to be clear with this, I have done. Okay, so I'm not telling you something that I've never done before. I've literally done every single one of these and figured out that it's just not the right way to run a business. So you see a competitor that you want to disrupt, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're trying to build something that's going to disrupt a market, that's going to solve a specific problem because we see some other alternative solution out there, but it's not servicing this very specific niche market that we're trying to solve for. So what do? Our natural instinct is if the competitor, let's just say COMPETIOR. So let's say the competitor is priced at $100 per month, okay? Competitors start for $100 per month. You decide that you're going to sell your product and you're going to say, you know what? We're going to sell it for $29 per month. Okay. and you're like, we're going to win the market because we're going to be cheaper, and most people are going to come to us because our product is going to be better and it's going to be cheaper, and therefore, why would you want to pay $100 per month when you could pay $29 per month? And this is absolutely the wrong way to think about things. Like, absolutely. I can't stress this enough. In fact, this is the worst thing that you could do. In fact, if there's any single thing that you could take away from this call, is do not price cheaper than your competitors. In fact, I would argue price higher than your competitors. And we're going to talk about why in a second. I know it sounds a little bit weird that I'm telling you to do the opposite, but you got to trust me on this one here, because you end up in a situation where you're just racing to the bottom. There is a reason why your competitor, whoever it is charging the price that they're charging. There's a reason. Now, in some cases, some of these prices are overinflated because we do live in a capitalist society, and one of the things that come out of it is you got VCs or private equity firms or whatever they are that would buy up these sort of smaller companies, and then they just start raising the price up because they want to just make money. That's a different conversation, but it's a real thing, right? For example, I got a real example of that right now. I normally use a tool called Loom. Okay. Love Loom, fantastic product, great product, like disruptor in the space. Today I tried to log into my account, paid account. I clicked on it. I was like, okay, log in with Google. I click on that. I try to sign in. And what happens is it just fails. It says, oh no, error happened. I can't get into my account. I literally cannot get into my account right now. I have no idea why. I got tons of videos inside of there. So I got to figure out another solution. So VCs buying up companies is a real thing. Or it's not VCs, but private equity firms buying up companies is a real thing. In this particular case, the competitor buying up the product is a real thing. Now, that's a nice thing for us, just to be clear, if we're a Vibe coder. That would be a real thing. That would be really nice for us to be bought by a big company. But one of the things that really drives me nuts is every single time I find I get a really good workflow, some company buys up the tool that I was using and they just destroy it. It drives me nuts. It's the reason why I've come to the conclusion I just build my stuff myself, because I've used so many tools over the years. I've gotten comfortable with them. A company buys them up and they just turn it to garbage. And I just don't know why. Like, I don't know why. They just do it. So, but that's besides the point. The price war is a real thing, and you can get into. It's not really price war. It's actually the real description for this is actually a pricing trap, because that's what it is. It's actually a trap. And so let's just cross out war. Let's just cross out war and put trap. TRAP. Right? Real thing. Do not do this. Why? Because you will run yourself into the ground because you're pricing improper, and that pricing incorrect strategy forces you into a position where you can't make money. It's actually very hard for you to raise your price, extremely hard for you to raise your price, but it's easy for you to give a discount. Okay, so if any single thing, start high and then give people discount. Add more value to the product and give discounts, right? That's the recommendation. So let's go back to the top because I want to answer this question. Your question is very, very valuable, Simon. So let's jump up to the top here and we'll talk about it. Man, I really don't know Miro. V is for this guy here. Yes, okay. So I gotta do V first and then thing. All right. Launching late. Let's go address the opposite of launching late. Obviously, the opposite of launching late is launching early. But to this point and this question here, well, what happens if you launch early and your product fails for the first time, and then your authentication, your trust, every single thing just goes out the door. So here's the procedure, specifically answering your question, Simon. When you launch, you're never going to truly launch publicly, okay? So in other words, you're not going to say, hey, website's launch, go sign up and just buy my product, because the truth is your product is not ready, okay? In fact, I'm talking about before your product is ready. I don't know if you've ever heard the book. Is it on my shelf? Let me see. No, it's not on my shelf. It's still in my garage. I moved recently, so I got a bunch of books in my garage. Um, it's called Lean Startup. Very good book, by the way. Lean, Lean Startup. TUP. This book covers that issue in detail, way more than I would do on this, but I'll give you the gist of it. The gist is very simple. You launch with a waiting list. That's the first thing. We're going to go into more details on this, but I want to just give you sort of like this book sort of methodology. So launch with a waiting list. ING, waiting list. Okay. So you're not actually giving out the product. Author, Eric Reese, I think it is. Eric, ERIC, REICE, I think it is, yeah. That's Google should tell me. LEAN. Yeah, there we go. Lean Startup, Eric Rice or Reese. I don't know if it's Rice or Reese, RIC. I'm from the Caribbean, so everything I see, RI, I see. All I see is rice. Yes, really good book. Fantastic overview about this concept about launching lean. Like very, very lean. And it's what got me onto this principle after tons of failures, just to be clear. So, what do you do? What do you do? You launch with a waiting list landing page. Okay, so you start very, very small, and the reason for doing this is twofold. I'll explain every single thing, but I want to make sure that we kind of get the basics first. You launch with a landing page, so you obviously know with a waiting list, nobody is seeing the actual product. And if you think about it, I'm sure you've seen this tons and tons of time in the past, where you see people, they launch and they're like, you click on it and it's like, oh, waiting list. For example, good example, OpenAI launched Sora, right? Okay. You might think that the Sora app, right? And they launched a Sora app and it was like, let me see. Is it going to load it? Okay. Stay on old Sora and get invite code. Here you go, right? Get invite code. Here. So you might think that this get invite code is, just like it's, well, I don't know what you might think, but I'm telling you what they're doing here. Basically, what they're doing is they're doing two very specific things. Number one is they're throttling their application deliberately. So what they did is they built the product, okay? Obviously, OpenAI got a significant amount of money, so you can't compete with this, but the principle is still the same. They launch a product that looks really good and seems very polished. But everybody knows that every product has bugs inside of it. So what they do is they start sending out invite codes. The invitation codes is basically a different form of the waiting list. It's literally the same thing. Okay. So they launch and they know that, it's going to be friends of friends, other popular figures, maybe people in the media, etc., that kind of stuff. People that they could kind of somewhat control the narrative. It's not truly controlled, but it's somewhat controlled. Really what they're doing is doing two things. Now, they got a scale up problem on their hand on the back end. So they have infrastructure that they need to scale up with. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is if they release it to everybody all at once, it's going to create sort of this, people are going to use it and then they're going to find the bugs and they'll be like, oh yeah, this doesn't work the way that I think it should work. And then they're just going to leave it like it is. So you create an artificial barrier, AKA an invitation code system. The invitation code system throttles the amount of people coming in, one, but more importantly, allows them to kind of fix the bugs as it kind of comes in a reasonable fashion because there's a limited amount of people inside of there. But on the opposite side of it, it's creating demand because, hey, I'm like, well, how can I get a Sora invitation code? And I'm sure if you go on eBay or something like that, you might see somebody selling an invitation code to Sora, right? That's how you sort of create this artificial demand. Now, that's on a bigger scale. Let's just bring it back to us, small vibe coders here. The reason why you want to do the waiting list is because number one is you want to quickly gauge if there's interest for your product or not. Because again, your idea, while it might be valid, doesn't mean that it has a audience for it. Chances are, if you do your marketing right, you'll get an audience. But the point is that you don't know if there's an audience for it, so you have to kind of test the market, and you want to test the market before you commit all these tokens, building out an AI product that you can't necessarily, um, you know, uh, 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 what you just got to pay for, right? So, what do? Um, you create the landing page, number one. Okay, you create a waiting list. You get a bunch of people that's going to sit in your database. Those people that are sitting in database, you're going to manually reach out to every one of them or a few of them by email, by mess, whatever it is. And you're going to try to see if you could get a meeting with them. Okay, this is my Zoom meeting. Okay, you're going to try to get a Zoom meeting with them or whatever it is. And then you're going to literally take down what their problems are. Okay, what are your problems? What are the challenges? What are the things that you guys need from me? So I'm preaching this and I'm teaching this and I'm telling you this and I'm also doing this at the exact same time. So I'm going to give you a more realistic example, me, because I'm literally doing this right now. So I started a school community, as many of you guys know. All right. I want to be clear. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I've never started a school community before. I don't even know if people are interested in a school community for vibe coding. I know that the keyword for vibe coding is high. I know that there's some interest in Cloudflare. I just personally like Cloudflare and I just started talking about Cloudflare. But what happened is I recognized that, hey, there's a lot of people that are interested in this topic. So what did I do? I said, okay, you know what? We're going to create a community. And we're going to create a community. And in this particular case, it's a free community, right? But what did I do? As you guys know, I reached out to each one of you guys individually, right? I hopped on a call with you and you're literally telling me some of the problems that you're having and some of the challenges that you're experiencing. What am I doing with that information? I'm writing it down. I'm basically putting together structured content based off of the same information that you're telling me. Okay? So in the exact same way is how you're dealing with this waiting list. Okay? Your waiting list promotes all of the features that you're thinking about building and you want to do and all of the magic stuff that you think is going to work in the market, but you don't know that as yet. Okay? Until you get those people into some sort of bucket and then you start reaching out to them one by one, right? You do one-on-one calls with them. And then from there, from those one-on-one calls, you get a bunch of feature lists of items. And then you say, if you had to choose, what is the one thing that you would want this app to do? The one thing. Or the top three, if you want to just kind of get some rankings, right? What is the top three? And here's the deal. If you talk to, let's call it 5 to 10 people, because we're starting out small, okay? Ideally, you talk to about 20 people. But if you talk to 5 to 10 people and you keep hearing the same top three things over and over, then you know what features you need to be focused on. And then you know if what you should be building. And what you're basically doing is asking them, if I build these features, would you be willing to pay for it? And if so, what do you think is worth to you? Right? Gauge your interest. People are going to have all kinds of random set of numbers. It doesn't really matter. It matters that they're suggesting that, yeah, if you had this feature, it'd be worth my time to pay for it. Or they'd be like, no, I would want it for free. The point is you're gathering information, right? You're gathering information. Thanks, Simon. All right, made perfect sense now. Your examples are very convincing. Yes, this is a real tactics, and it's super important. That's why I like, the goal of this school is vibe code to profit. And like I said, it's coding is half the battle here. The other half is learning how to sell. And if you don't know how to sell, you end up in a situation where you got this amazing product, and it's like, well, why is nobody, sort of using my product? Or how do I get customers? And you kind of start working backwards, trying to backtrack, trying to figure things out, and it's a nightmare. And again, talking from experience here. Okay, so once you talk to these people and you truly understand how what is important to them, what are the things that make sense to them, then you go off and you start building. Now, obviously, you might be building in the background or whatever, but my point is that this will shift your focus and shift your sort of priority list. And then you narrow down the feature to the top one or the top two, maybe top three if you have to. Okay. But from those 20 people or the 10 people that you talk to, you will have enough information to understand truly what the problem is that you're trying to solve for. And only then will you be able to go off and actually try to work the project out. And then the next step of that product, we're still in number one, we're still in the launch phase, right? But we're technically, actually, you know what, it's not true. We're going to be kind of shifting into, where's my thing, right? So that's launching. We're going to show you how to not overcomplicate the product itself, right? Because now you know your ICP. Again, for those who don't know the concept of what ICP is, ICP stands for Ideal Customer Profile. So ICP, okay? And an ideal customer profile just basically means somebody that's going to buy your product. And generally speaking, so let's use real world examples. So let's say that you're selling Lamborghinis. You're a salesperson for Lamborghini. Who wants to buy a Lamborghini? Well, certainly not me, because I don't have the money for a Lamborghini, right? I might want to drive one, but I don't have the money for it. So who's buying Lamborghinis? Well, probably a business person, in his 40s, maybe 50s, successful in business, and wants to, show that he's earned his way up the ladder, right? Something like that, making the stuff up on the fly. And or maybe he's going through a midlife crisis. Who knows, right? He just decides, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go buy a Lamborghini. Maybe he just came out of a divorce. I don't know. The point is, you need to figure out what that ICP is. But once you figure out who that person is, right, you sell only to that one person. Okay, maybe I'll give you a different example. Let's say that you are a you're building well, actually, I use my software. We're selling to contractors. SnapSuite, you're selling to contractors, right? Like contractors. Well, who are contractors? There's so many different types of contractors out there. They're HVAC contractor, electrical, there's garage door, there's like general contractors. There's so many different markets. So what we did is basically said, we're selling to people that do HVAC and electrical. If you do plumbing and the other, sure, you could use our software, but these are the only two people that we're talking to. So when I have a conversation or I do marketing, I'm literally only talking to HVAC or electrical people. That's it. Because I know that the business owner that runs an HVAC or electrical company that has that's doing manual work would use our software. In fact, it's more like a business owner that does HVAC or electrical work that has between 5 to 20 employees that is using QuickBooks and don't have a process in place, like they're doing every single thing by paper, is who our target is. Very, very specific. And you might be saying to yourself, oh, well, if I get too specific, then does that mean that, I can't sell to all these people? No, in fact, the more specific you get, the more targeted your messaging becomes, and the better you're able to sort of target your customers, etc. So this is the most important thing, and this is the thing that you need to really, really be thinking about, right? So your ICP, super important. So with that, because you know the let's call it 1 to 3 features, TURES, okay? That's what you're going to be basically launching with. All right. In management, we call it strategy focus management niche. There you go. Yes, you know the official term for what I'm basically broad describing. Focus on market niche. Yes, your market niche. Super, super important, your ICP. So with that, this is how you simplify the complexity of your application. And more importantly, you only launch with 1 or 2 features. nothing else. Maybe 3 at most. Why? Because you've already talked to, let's call it 10 to 20 people that might potentially buy your software. Now, obviously, they're not all going to buy, but what you're hoping for is about a 20% conversion rate, maybe 20 or 30% if you can, right? And what you do with these people is you just give them early access. And you say, hey, I'm going to give you early access, right, to a beta software, okay? And in return, you're going to give me feedback. Oh my goodness, I can't write. Feedback. Okay. So to go back to your specific question, Mr. Simon, right? This is how you address that problem. Because you're dealing with a control set of users that understand this is a very early product that you're giving them beta access to in response for feedback. That feedback you will use to improve the product. And then whenever the product is improved, what you're going to do is, now you're getting that feedback, but you also want to make sure that they're going to pay at some point too, because else you might end up having a bunch of free users on your hands, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to give them, let's call it early access for a set amount of time. Okay, so let's call it time. Oh my goodness, T-I-M-E. So let's call it 3 months. Okay, free. Okay, and all they have to do is jump on a call once a week or once every other week or whatever the deal is to get that give that feedback in to be able to understand what the problem is with the product. After that 3 months, you're going to give them at a heavily discount. Let's call it 60% discount. Okay, and when you can get them there, between that time, you're going to try to get some sort of testimonial. Come on, Testimonial, right? Testimonial. That testimonial is where you're going to use to put on your landing page, right? Your MVP page to say, hey, we got real users using this product and this is what they said, right? Now you might want to help craft a message for them so that you get something a little bit more. But the point is, this is how you go from I have absolutely nothing to I've given early access to a select set of people, I've gotten their feedback, to I'm going to give you early access and at a heavily discounted price in the future, but between now and that time, I need your feedback to make this product better. So that when you do your second launch, you're launching with significantly more knowledge about the market, and you could talk directly to the actual person that has the pain that you're solving the problem for. Hopefully that makes sense, because that's the important part of this conversation, right? Is you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't launch early, you can't find this information out. And again, preaching to the 5 coders here that are brand new to this type of stuff is you launch late and you don't get that information, right? You don't get that information. And when you do that, you get into a situation where you're just sort of like you just don't know. So you're guessing. Maybe you had some industry knowledge, which is relevant, just to be clear. The industry knowledge does help a specific market, but that inability to properly articulate the problem from real customers puts you at a disadvantage when you're trying to scale up your marketing. Hopefully that makes sense. Right. Price war. Okay. So here's the thing. You're not trying to, this is still a tricky one. I want to be clear. Certain products in certain markets, the reality is you just can't charge a high price. But what you're trying to really do is you're trying to carve out a niche of a market where you can solve a very, very specific problem that somebody will willing to pay more money for it. Yeah, no worries, man. I'm happy that you're getting some value from it, because that right is really important. So what you're gonna do is on the pricing, right? Let's again going back to the example. Your competitor is charging $100. This one here is a little tricky, I will admit it, but I want to make sure that you guys get sort of like some core concepts. Your competitors charge $100, and they have, let's say these, let's say the product had 10 features or whatever it is, right? They charge $100 per month for those 10 features. Okay. You might actually come into the market, have one feature, okay, and charge $80. I'm just making a number up, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of why this does not matter, the pricing. Okay. It's very easy because you've just vibe coded an application and you're smaller than your competitor for you to think that you need to charge lower in terms of pricing. The problem with this is that you end up with a race to the bottom. So you start at a comparable price for the 1 or 2 or 3 features that you've added to the products that you know absolutely is needed. Because what you're really trying to do is not price against your competitor, is you're trying to price the worth of that specific product. And most technical people, they get this wrong, because what ends up happening is they think that they need to price based on the feature. It's actually not the feature. It's based on the perceived value and the amount of time saved by that user, right? Like if you build that one feature, just to give a real world example, let's say you built one feature that does not exist in your competitor's application, and that one feature is saving a business owner, let's say 3 hours a week of work that they would have otherwise had to manually do. The question is, what is that 3 hours a week worth to that business owner? That's the question that you need to be asking yourself. Not, oh, if I charge $80 a month, and my competitor has 10 features and I only have, right? Like that's the wrong way to think about it. You need to be thinking about, how much time am I saving my target ICP? Like, what is the value? What's the outcome that you're going to get from this feature? And then what is that worth to them, right? Because I could tell you, if a business owner got 3 hours back in terms of their time per week, they're probably going on the golf course. I don't know, right? Like whatever business owners want to do, but whatever that is, it's worth their sanity. So you're giving them back their time, but you're giving them back their mental sanity, right? Their ability to focus on something else. And that has a lot of value. And more importantly, right, if a business owner that you're targeting, most business owners that are, sort of have a little bit of cash flow or whatever the case is, the thing that they value the most is their time. So they're willing to pay more to get back their time. Super important. So do not ever value your product based on your competitor's price. You need to be thinking about what is the actual time that is being given back to the target ICP. Okay, so that's just an example of how to think about pricing. We could go into a whole conversation about it, but that's how I want to kind of start this conversation, because I want to make sure that everybody that's in this community, that has joined the Vibe Coding community, by the way, if you're on TikTok or on YouTube, and you haven't join the community, because I'm gonna be doing more videos specifically on this. Like I got one of the course that I'm going to be doing is on this. Right now we're at Cloudflare, the technology side of things, but we're going to jump over to the business side of it as well too, because I want to make sure that people have execution step-by-step plan. No worries, man. Appreciate you jumping in. Thanks for joining. I'm gonna see you. Watch the rest of the video later on. I appreciate your time. Covering business and tech is very insightful session, and your efforts really appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. You have a wonderful day. So now that we got some idea about sort of the business side of it, we're gonna kind of jump into the technical side, because right, like I said, the only reason that I can able to kind of have this conversation with some level of confidence is just because I want to be clear, because of my failures. Okay, failed so many times. It's like, at some point you just have to learn this thing. Okay, and I want to make sure that you guys don't fail in the same way. All right, I want to make sure that everybody that is in my community that is learning from me at least can progress significantly faster without having to go through the same set of failures. And that's why we're called Vibe Code to Profit. So if you haven't joined the group already, or you're on TikTok, or you're passing through, you're swinging by, then join the Vibe Code to Profit learn to build and launch an app and scale an app. So it's build, launch, and scale your first SaaS application. That's what we're doing here. So yeah. All right. So let's move on to another part of the process, which is talking about code. Hopefully you guys got some value from this. I'm hoping that I see 3 people watching. All right, we got a really small group today, but that's okay. These calls are recorded. People will watch them in their own time. I get comments after the fact because, sometimes everybody can't watch at the exact same time, which is totally cool. So moving forward, let's go talk about some coding. So where did we leave off last week? So last week, we were talking about integration with, Gmail and our app. I love this mirror thing. It's pretty cool. This endless canvas thing. So AI summarizer. That's what we were building last week. So what is it that we wanted to do with our application? Okay. Our goal was to do a couple of things. So pay for pen. So with the AI summarizer, what is it that we're doing? We're building an app that will essentially have some sort of timer system. This is my gear for a timer. And what that timer is going to do is that timer is going to hit Gmail. Let's call it every minute or every 5 minutes or whatever. And then it's going to pull the information into our application. It's going to store it in a database. And then it's going to use the vectorized database, Cloudflare vectorized database. I should put Cloudflare on this. So it's going to use Cloudflare vectorized database. And with that, so if you don't know what a vector database is, we should at least address that. A vector database is a way that AI can, how would I describe it? It's a way that AI can understand text better. So we kind of talked about this last week, but I'm going to kind of do a quick recap for everybody else that's joining. So this is what happens in very, very plain English. Man, the hardest thing about doing this live stream is just basically like figuring out what to do with my mouse. It's the weirdest thing. Okay, so let's say that you have a piece of text. The fox ran over the hill. Okay. Make it bigger. So when you're working with AI and you type in the fox ran over the hill, I don't even know if this is proper English. Just work with me here. AI doesn't actually understand text, believe it or not, even though it sends you back text. What it actually does under the hood is when you give it text, it has a translation layer. We'll call it that. Okay. And that translation layer turns in that text to a bunch of numbers. Let's say it will be like 1003, comma, 222, comma, right? For every word, more or less, okay, I'm oversimplifying a lot of details here. So any LLM expert people, please don't butcher me here, okay? Trying to keep concepts simple for non-technical people. So for every word, roughly, more or less, or a group of words or whatever, it turns it into numbers. And that process of translation is what we call vectorization or embeddings. Okay. So you have to store vectorized numbers, embeddings, more or less the same thing. Drag the bottle. Oops. 1 second. Vectorize. Okay. So that vectorization is important because that's what the AI understands. And more importantly, the reason why the AI understands this is because when you type in, let's say for example, you type in a question, where did the fox run to? Right? As an example. I don't know if this is proper English, okay? Please don't harp on my English. I actually don't know if it's proper English, believe it or not, even though English is my native language. I have dyslexia, and so every single thing is a little bit jumbled in my brain sometimes. So if it doesn't make any sense, just it's the principle that matters here. Oops, I'm trying to get a color that makes a little bit of sense. Let's do here. So when you type in the question, where did the fox run to? Right? Same thing is going to happen. And what's going to happen is the AI will basically turn that into a number. Right? Whatever those numbers are, right? You get the idea. A bunch of numbers. And what it's basically going to do is it's going to do some sort of pattern matching. Beyond this level, don't ask me what happens, okay? Just know that it's going to do some level of pattern matching. And it's going to say, oh, this is related to this question, therefore these numbers are connected, and yada, yada, yada. And it's going to pass through its neural network transmitter, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to return you text. And it's going to say, over the hill. Right? It's going to figure out the number sequence, and then it's going to turn that back into text. It's going to return over the hill. Okay? This concept is pretty important to understand because when you're dealing with any sort of summarization or if you have data that you want the AI to understand that's personal information, you have to always do this step, which is to vectorize, aka translate, create embeddings to steer that data in order to basically ask questions against your own data. So in our specific case, we're trying to do AI against our email, right? So going back up to the top here, we're trying to read our email inbox one by one. And whenever we read an email, we're going to take that email, extract it, like I said, we're going to put it into a database. And then what we need to do is we need to extract it and we need to put it into a vector DB. Once we do put it in a vector database, once we understand that, then now we can ask questions against the vector, and we can either store those answers back in our database so that a human being could read it in the app. Right? So as an example, we read the entire email and then we translate it to vectors. Then we summarize, we ask the AI to summarize the question, summarize it. It will basically obviously do the embeddings. It will take our question, which is like our instructions, which is to summarize, turn that into vector, compare them, and then basically spit out actual text because it's already doing the reverse translation. Give us back text, and that will be a summary of our email that we could then store in our database, and then we could basically push out back to the user. So that's what happens sort of under the hood. The tools that we use to do that so Cloudflare, Vector, Introduction to Vectorization, and Workers AI. Okay. Vectorization now generally available. Let's see, get it started, overview. The documentation is so weak. I mean, it's all there. It's just that it's no diagrams, no nothing. So here, Workers embeddings, workers create. So vector embeddings using workers AI. Okay. So by the way, I forgot to mention one thing because we mentioned this last week, but I'm repeating myself here a little bit because I want to make sure just everybody's up to speed with this. This process that I've put in this information is called RAG, RAG, retrieval augment generation. So you retrieve some data from Gmail, you augment it by saying, hey, I want to summarize the information, etc., right? You then get your answer, you generate an answer, RAG, right? That's sort of like what RAG is. And it basically just means merging my well, actually I shouldn't say that just once, because what's missing here is the LLM part. So LLM, because when you do the embeddings, you still have to take both the embeddings and your data to send to the LLM to basically get the generation. That's the generation part of the RAG. Okay, so I kind of forgot that part. Yeah, so with Cloudflare, it's a vector database that stores those vectors for you. And see here, vector embeddings using worker AI. So now you should have an understanding of what this is, right? If you come into the docs, you should be able to at least understand whatever it is. So you have to create a vector DB by just running this command. So again, the vector DB is what stores the vectors, right? The embeddings. And then from there, the vector embeddings using worker AI is their sort of Cloudflare worker that basically does sort of the, see here, you can create the index. So here, right, you got the vectorized index, and then you could, once you got your embeddings, you can set up your worker. Your worker is like an orchestrator. Think of it that way, right? That is just basically doing all of this stuff. So here we have real application. In real world application that could read content from R2 SQL database like a D1. Sorry, in real, right? So they basically they're just doing this basic text here, and they're basically creating embeddings from it, vectorizing it. So convert vector embeddings into format vectorize accept. So yeah, so essentially dropping it into the vectorized database. All this here, right? And then after that, they're running a query against it, which is orange cloud, and that's pulling it back out, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's go. So with that, we're going to kind of deep a little deeper, and we're going to try to see if we could actually get our application going. Boo, boo, boo. By the way, if you haven't joined the school community, link is in the description or above at the top here. Dwain.me/SKOOL. And it's a place where you can learn how to vibe code. We got a community of people. We're up to 24 members now, so we're growing slowly. And it's free community that you can join. We got a couple courses inside. Well, a couple courses. I got one course in there right now. There's more coming. I got a few more courses coming. But we got our foundations for foundations of the web, which is a very, very entry level course. And I deliberately wanted to start with this because I just want to make sure that I had a way to level set people's knowledge, because it's very easy to get deep into the weeds with the complexity of Cloudflare, and I needed to make sure that if somebody doesn't understand the concept, I could just point them to very, very, what I would call entry level type knowledge. So at least you have some foundation. It's not a technical course by any single means. It's just so that you can, if you're interested in that. So yeah. All right. So let's move forward here. So we're going to go to, right, okay, sorry. There's one other thing I got to talk about. Forgot about it. So we got to talk about authentication, which we sort of did last week. We didn't really get it working properly, but we need to sort of go into the details of it a little bit here. And you know what I want to do? Going forward, what I think I'm going to do is do sort of a little bit of business at the start because it's five code to profit and then do technical. Some of you might be here for the technical, some of you might be here for the business. But you know, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you kind of have to be thinking about both sides of the coin. And it's very easy to get sucked into the technical and not the business side of it. And I want to make sure that like we're doing both because then I'm not leading anybody astray by telling them or giving them this sort of like false hope dream that if you don't, that you could just vibe code an app and just make a ton of money, right? I want to give real practical examples of how to do this because when I was starting this stuff out, it was like, I was like, no, I remember having my app. And I was like, how do I find people to use it? Like what, where do I go? I was sitting in my condo. I remember this specifically. I was sitting in my condo and I'm just looking out the window. And I'm looking out the window and I'm thinking to myself, how do I find people to use my application? Where do I go? Do I go down the street and like knock on random businesses' door and ask them to join? And this was such a hard concept for me to understand because I just didn't have the foundations of how to reach people in the digital world. If you've never done it, when you after you've done it, it seems so obvious. Well, you got to do outreach to people, but if you haven't done it, it's like what? Like what are you doing again? So so going forward, we're gonna try to split the conversations into half and half. We're gonna do half business, half technical, half business, half technical. Therefore, when people join, you know, watch these videos in the future, there's always going to be a little bit of business and technical because the group is called Vibe Code to Profit. That means we have to talk about the business side in addition to the coding side. And it's what I know best. And it's what I've been doing for most of my time. So yeah, okay. Let's go write some code. Let's go write some code because we're up on time and things. So actually, I didn't even open up the application from last week, but let me get that going right now. So just 1 second here. So if you just join in, we're building a email AI summarizer, and we're talking about how to set things up properly with authentication. That's what we're going to be going to do right now, and we're going to tackle some of the authentication challenges, which is where we left off from last week, and see if we could get a working prototype that's going to read Gmail, pull information into it, and then summarize it with Cloudflare. So that's where we're at right now. So I need to open up VS Code and create a front-end AI email summarizer. So you know what I'm going to do in this application here? I'm just going to open up this folder. So I have a mono repo here, but I'm going to open up just this folder directly because it's actually easier to do it that way. So we're just going to go target this folder directly. So here, and front-end and AI email summarizer, open. There. So if you're new, again, we're kind of halfway through this application. So what I'm going to do is just going to get a overall summary of what's in the application. And the best way to do that is a new feature. Oh, you know what? I don't have the latest here. Oh, interesting. Okay. I have to use the Insider, VS Code Insider. I thought I had the latest one. I thought they said they deployed the latest. Maybe I could, let me see if I could update it. Check for an update. Let's see if we could just check for an update. If not, we're going to use a Visual Studio Insider one. Welcome. No, you know what? Let's just use the Insider. So VS Code Insider has some good features that is coming soon. I watched a launch last night or yesterday with them, and I thought they said that they released it already, but maybe it's just been slowly rolled out. So one of the features that VS Code now has is a planning feature, which is really cool because it helps you to just kind of think through the code a little bit more in detail. So I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to target this AI email summarizer project, and on the left hand side here, my VS Code, I'm going to go and we're going to click on plan. So this feature here, and I'm say, hey, can you just review my project and just tell me where I'm at with it and what are the things that are left to be done based on my um, to-do list. Okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't have my Oh wait, what's going on with my voice thing? Hang on a second here. My whisper's not working. Let's quit it. Open it up again. By the way, I'm using Whisper. Using this tool here. It's called Whisper Flow, and it's a pretty cool tool. So I could just type. It's like, hey, can you review my tool? Sorry. So I just have to press my function key and just talk, and then it works properly. So, hey, can you review this application and figure out what features are being currently implemented, and then give me a overview of what I need to do in order to launch the application. Thanks. So that's going to spin for a bit, and it's just going to do a quick review. The good news about doing the planning is the planning feature, which again, I'm in the Visual Studio Insider. So this has not been released to the full public as yet. Oh, well, I shouldn't say that. You could go download Visual Studio Insider and sign up for this build. You get the nightly builds on Visual Studio Insider, and this has some features that are really very valuable for vibe coding at this kind of level. So yeah, anyway, so hopefully it's going to give me a summary understanding. We don't have a PRD in this document here, so we're going to try to get that going as well too, because that's the one thing that I haven't been doing. And you know what, while we're waiting for this to be generated, let's talk about that for a bit. So if you're new here, you haven't done this before, I got to keep reminding myself to make sure that we do these steps, because it's important for newbie people that I don't think. So here are the things that you need to do if you're vibe coding for the very first time, building a sort of production level SaaS application, is you need a PRD document. So let's just ask ChatGPT in the quick model instant, what are the steps that I need to do in order to vibe code a proper application, PRD, feature documents, etc. Give me some examples. So if you're doing a vibe code application, one of the things that you need to make sure that you're doing is get a proper PRD. PRD stands for Project Requirements Document. If you're new and you don't know what that is, I got videos on my channel about it, so we won't go into too much deep in here. But getting yourself a PRD, which basically outlines sort of the problem, the vision, and the outcome, right? And it kind of gives you sort of like what are the goals and what are the things that you're trying to come up with, really helps the model. And then you want to have a feature document that has all of the features of the things that you care about to be able to properly vibe code an application. And then you want to have you can have an architecture document, and you can have a to-do list, right, of all the different things, task list or a checklist basically. So these are sort of the things that are super recommended. So if you're in VS Code, you want to make sure that your GitHub Copilot instructions file, which we don't even have in this particular project here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually get it to create one in a sec after we go through this list here. So let's see, plan to launch AI summer application. So Nuxt application features UI, blah, blah, blah. All components page are built currently. So environment variables, public API domain, auth0, bun install, app developer layer. So replace mock API calls with index search chat. So create a callback page to handle authentication. Okay, so let's do a couple things here. So basically, so this is what I have so far, but I don't actually have those documents in here, like a PRD document. So we're just going to add them because I didn't do it before, and I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing every time here. So say, can you create a docs folder and create a PRD specifically for this? And also we'll need a GitHub Copilot instructions file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically create an agent, use it in agent mode. Let's do it this way. I'm going to do the GitHub Copilot file differently. So we'll get it to just create the PRD specifically for the documents because we didn't actually do that in the last video. While that's happening, I'm going to take a little bit of sip. If you're new on TikTok and you're just wondering what we're doing, we're building an AI email summarizer application, and it's a vibe coded application. You can watch the actual real screen on YouTube, and you could actually follow along, or you could join our free vibe coded community. So at least you can learn how to actually vibe code for real, like build a real production app, not a fake to-do level application. We're all about building real applications over here. And I mean, honestly, I put out a video recently because I was like, you know what? I'm so sick of seeing people vibe code applications, and they're like, oh, I vibe coded this application in like 5 minutes, and launch it, and I'm making millions. It's like, yeah, okay, right? Like it's this fallacy that is being sold because people know that they can make quick money on telling people to buy my course on how to vibe code. And the reality is that everybody knows, well, everybody, the people that actually knows this stuff knows that the AI are not, they're good, but they're not that good. So you actually have to spend a little bit more granular time teaching and guiding the AI properly in order to get real results. So I've been on a mission to change this narrative that vibe coding will just automatically, get you an app and you won't have any problems, etc. And the goal is the goal is that you can build some kind of application that is sustainable. That's the mission. That's the goal. So yeah. Boo, boo, boo. Okay, so we're still waiting for the PRD document to be created. And looks like we got a slim audience. But that's okay. We're going to show up here every single week. And we're going to... Right. So, create a comprehensive PRD document covering exclusive summary, goals, KPI, segment technical details, 12 weeks roadmap. Why 12 weeks? My goodness. Launch application, the document provides thing. 12 weeks. I want this to be done today, buddy. Docs. So this is our PRD document here. And I'm not going to read through all of this. Technical details. And success criteria. Right. Okay. So let's just say, can you create a to-do, a task list also, and a feature list, and create those in separate documents, link them together also. So we're going to create these other documents and kind of link them together. This is super important. I want to make sure that every single time we do vibe coding that we actually do this, because else the model kind of strays off track after a while. The truth is we should have done this last week when we were doing all this setup work, but I might have been too eager to kind of get things going because I was rambling also. All right. Now, again, if you're a TikToker and you're joining for the first time, we are vibe coding an application. Vibe coding an application. I'm gonna have to learn how to go on TikTok at a different time from my YouTube time, because there's conflicting goals here. Definitely conflicting goals. Okay, let's wait for this thing to load. In the meantime, I'm gonna steal a scone here. I had a friend came over, drop off a bunch of scones. So one of the things I've been noticing about Sonnet 4.5 is once the context gets too big, see here, we got quite a bit of files that I read. What ended up happening is it kind of takes I notice it really, really slows down after a while. So I've seen this working and it just keeps going and going and going. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to stop it and then just start again because I've from experience, I just know that it just freezes. So I'm going to just basically just click continue and create a new thing. And then we're just going to paste that exact same thing again and just let it cook for the very first time because I've noticed that consistently keeps happening, that the minute the context get a little bit too much, it just kind of freezes. And in fact, for this reason, I've been consistently going back to Claude Sonnet 4.0 because it seems to have a better sort of way of, it's not aggressive in the summarization is what I'm trying to say. It's not aggressive in the summarization. It's significantly better when it comes to just not being as aggressive. So just a heads up for you guys. Let's see if this is better. Might be something with VS Code because it seems like it's just kind of spinning around here. So let's see. All right. So create. Okay, so it did create the doc, it did create the task. Yeah, there we go, right? So that's much better now. So, oh, you know what I didn't do this week? I didn't actually change the resolution on the screen. I just remembered that. Jeez. I need to go through a checklist every time. I don't know. Should I do that now? Sure. What could go wrong? So this guy, and let's go with this. Sorry, forgot to change the resolution on the screen. There we go. Okay. Oh, geez. I gotta do one more thing, sorry. Display. Arrange. I'm telling you, man, the Mac layout system is just windowing system. It's just horrible. No other word to describe it but horrible. It's just horrible. Okay, so let's go build our AI summary application. AI summary application. Where are you? So here. Right, so we got a PRD. We got a feature document. And we have, where is it? We have the features that it's going to build. We got the task list, which is a whole bunch of stuff. We'll see how far we get. We got our to-do list. So the only one that I need now is just a GitHub Copilot instructions file. So we're going to create a new, no, we want to click on the, oh, sorry. We want to click on the gear here and we want to do generate instructions, Copilot instructions. And again, I'm just going to tell it to link the PRD, the task, and every single thing to the GitHub Copilot instructions so it knows what to do. Super important. I just don't know, we skipped a step last week and I want to make sure that I reinforce this over and over because this is the most critical part of any vibe coding application. If you're doing any of this stuff, you have to link them together. Super important. You don't do that, AI starts to sort of drift. You get into all these problems. So this at least allows the AI to, essentially what you're doing in the background, just to give some context while we're waiting for all this stuff, is what you're doing here is you're actually just giving it artificial memory. So one of the things that is kind of fascinating about these AI models is that they actually don't know anything. And I know that's weird because it seems like they know a lot, but excuse me, all they've been trained to do is correlate text from the real world with numbers to kind of find matching set of related numbers. And then they try to translate those numbers back into words, which just happen to make sense for us. It's the weirdest thing. So without going into too much details on that front, when you are chatting with the AI back and forth, the AI actually doesn't know any single thing about what you're doing. So what you have to do is basically send your information in to the model with the context, and the context means the history of your conversation, your task list, your feature requests, so that it knows how to move to the next step. It's kind of fascinating actually, because it will be the equivalent of a human being having amnesia. So when you talk to them, or memory loss, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the word amnesia right, but when you're talking to them, you have to give them a picture. You have to give them some like every single thing that they need to remember who you are to have that conversation. And then when you go away and you come back to again, they don't remember any single thing, so you have to give it all over again. But you might bring more information the second time, and that's basically what we're doing over and over and over again with the LLM. It's very fascinating. So yeah, anyway, so okay, so we got this worked out. We got our feature document, we got our PRD document, we got our task list document, we got our to-do list document. So with that, we can do the GitHub Copilot instructions file, which is this one here, which is here. But what I didn't do is I actually didn't link them together. So I'm just going to tell it, can you link those together? So can you ensure that there's a linkage between the GitHub Copilot instructions file, the feature file, the PRD, the task list, and this to-do? So ensure that also there's an instruction so that whenever you finish a task, that you update the task list so that we can keep track of the progress that we're making, right? So that step that I just described there is the important bit, which allows the AI to basically keep track of its own progress. Very, very important, right? There's more complex ways of doing this, but in a simple sort of structured approach, I find this to be the simplest and easiest for especially entry level people to kind of understand. How do you keep the AI on track, which is something that, if you're a vibe coder, you'll struggle with for sure, right? So if you're new to the channel, you're watching on YouTube, we're building an AI email summarizer. Welcome. And we're just waiting for all of these pieces to come together so we can kind of build out the next half of the application. So thanks for joining. Say hi, by the way, in the chat if you feel want to stick around, or if you got some specific questions, just ask me. Not a problem. Small group today. All right. Okay, so let's move forward now. So we got our AI email summarizer. We also had our Auth0 because we got to do some things with security. Actually, let me just do one more thing here. Let's just get it deployed to Cloudflare so it can show up at the top. Can you deploy these changes to Cloudflare? So we're just going to deploy it right away, so at least we get we're just going to deploy it right away because I want to make sure that this monorepo is properly set up with Cloudflare. I think we have Cloudflare in here. Yeah, okay, we got a Wrangler JSON-C file. Yes, yeah, email summarizer front end. Yeah, okay, so it's going to do a button deploy, and then we're going to go look at that in Cloudflare. And while that's happening, we need to pull up Auth0 because Auth0 is what we did authentication, and we also need to pull up Google authentication because we're going to be reading our Gmail emails. So we need to pull up Gmail here. Come on. There we go. Right. So authentication. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to try to read this inbox, and we're going to summarize these emails, and we're going to try to triage the emails properly, right? Even, we might even look into how we could respond to the emails altogether. I need to go to Auth0. So let me just log into Auth0 here. So the thing that we need to remember is that we're using Auth0 as the authentication layer or the identity provider that we're doing a dance with between Auth0 and, between Cloudflare, Auth0, and Gmail. So let me just pull that up. Perfect. here. Okay, so just to recap, because this stuff here, it gets complicated, and I want to make sure that people are following what's going on. Okay, Auth0 is our identity provider. I'm going to put a shield here if I could draw one for our identity provider. Oh, look at that. Not bad. That's our shield for authentication provider, right? So this is Auth0, AUTH 0. Auth0 is keeping our username and password. So username, password. Okay. And what we're doing is we have a social provider, which is Gmail. So this is a provider. Provider. Okay. This provider is responsible for the actual security because you own this email. Super important. So what we're basically doing is we're going to register an app that will have access to Gmail to be able to read the emails out of the Gmail inbox. And that app registration is going to be registered with Auth0 also. And our app will be able to use that registration to be able to then access the Gmail, right? Like that's more or less the dance that's happening. There's obviously some more steps inside of there, but that's kind of the gist of it all together. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that, let me see if you're able to deploy. To complete the deployment, you'll need to confirm the project creation in the terminal, follow the instructions thing. No, I just want you to just finish the project deployment and then just let me know when it's done. Give me the URL. Why is it asking me to complete? What? There's a warning about node compatibility not being enabled. Configuration typically fine for static. Would you like help with? No, just finish the deployment, man. What are you doing? Right, and again, we're building an MVP. We're building an MVP email summarizer, right? So keep that in mind, and it just requires a little bit of dance. So that app registration that I was talking about here has to be done in Google Console. So console.google, console.cloud.google.com. So that's not a long enough name. And if you go to the credentials tab, no, where is it? Sorry, OAuth screen. And you go to, is it audience? Clients? Oh, I just, no, oh no, I'm in the wrong account, sorry. So here we go. No, that's one client. Let me see if I don't know if I actually created it last week. Let me just, I'm trying to remember now. So let's just go here. Go to credentials. So we only have make.com. Authentication screen. Okay, so we didn't actually create it. I thought we created the app last week, but I might have. Audience, let me just make sure. Okay, I don't think we actually created the app. Huh, interesting. I thought we did. I might be going crazy here. Okay, we got to do this step over to create this app that I'm just talking about here. Thought we did that. So you know what? I have to go look this step up because I keep forgetting the procedures. We had this where. APM. Let's just do a search Gmail. Try it. I find this search to be very slow in ChatGPT. It's actually very slow. It's really annoying. It's in here. I have it in here. So current ID hook Gmail. Oh, there we go. This guy here. Okay. So what we have to do is let's go through the steps. Make sure I got it right because I kind of. Right. So it was configure Auth0, configure Auth0 social network. Yeah, so we let me just go to Auth0 dashboard authentication social. So let's just double check that we got that. So Auth0 applications. So this is our social Gmail. Right, we have to put in our client ID and our secret. I could have sworn that we did this last week. I might be tripping here. So OAuth, not in legacy. Okay, authentication social. We need the client ID. We need the client secret. Set scopes to include Gmail read only. Right, make the connection enabled. Make sure to connect to your application. Right, so now we have right. So that was one part, and then I had the test flow on how to do it, how to connect with Gmail. So if you prepare separation Auth0 for login, go directly to Auth0. Where is it? Right. Google Console, Gmail. So Auth screen here, and then user type external app info plus email. We need to add test users for testing mode. So create a Auth0 client web app. Right. So we're here. I could have sworn we did this last week. And then we have to do, let me bring this down so I could just see it to follow along. So scope, right, so Auth0 scope, so app info. Where are you? Create Auth0 client. So we enable the GPI, let me just make sure we did this already because I know we did this, but for some reason I might have done this in the wrong account. That's why I'm kind of confused right now. So enable API service. So we need to enable Gmail. That's the first thing. Gmail API. Yes. So it's already enabled. Now we can manage it. Okay. Then we can go here. There we go. And then we can do user type external. So here, we're going to create a client. The type will be web. Oh, sorry, the type is going to be, yeah, that's what I was looking for, right? So type will be external, so web application. So that's fine. We're going to call it, AI ZER summarizer. The origins, we're going to have to come back to it, but you know what? Let's just do this right now because we're going to end up in a situation where Cloudflare is going to tell us one thing. Did it get deployed? Yes, it did. Okay, so we're going to copy this URL. And we're going to go back to here, and we're going to put JavaScript origin for use with from request from browser. So we're going to use this and redirect URL here. Then we're going to click create. And now we need the client ID. So that goes into this client ID here. And we also need the secret. So that goes into this. And, oops. Let me just download this just in case. Restricted to test user on your authentication suite. Okay, so we have our client email and we have our secret. And we're going to select the Gmail read only and Gmail metadata for now. We might come back to later on, but we might do a few others there. And I think that's it for this one here. So we're going to click on save. So now we have a email provider. How do we know? This connection is using Auth0 development keys. Auth0 development for testing, not for recommended for thing. That's okay. Copy the comment, copy the secret. Why does this matter? Okay, so now we're going to go to configure the social method. So configure Auth0 social. Yeah, we did that part already. Auth0 read only. So we're good there. Importing connections option. Store tokens, aka save ID token, blah, blah, blah. We're okay with that. Okay, Auth0. So authentication dashboard. So applications. Dashboard. So applications, and then open your app. So now the question is, which one is our app? So is it this one? Yeah, okay, let's go with this one. I think this is one that we're using. Vibe coding, dashboard. I have to put a callback URL. So callback, good question. What is going to be your callback URL? So callback URL will be this guy here. We really should be separating this, but we're going to try to get this up going first, and then we're going to come back to it later on. The crazy thing about Auth0 is that no matter how many times you do it, it's like keep forgetting the same steps. C-A-U-T-H callback, and then allowed logout URL. So we're going to put this here, allowed web origin, this one. And that's about it for now. So let's just make sure that, can you ensure that we have a path that's going to handle the callback from Auth0? So we need this callback, right? Because what's going to happen is when we do the security dance back and forth, we're going to need to ensure that Auth0 is able to call our application after it to send the security code. So try to explain this in the best way I can. So it's like this. Every time I have to do this, I like it's just one of those things where it's like, listen, I've been doing this for a while and I still don't know Auth0 that well. Okay, it's just one of those things that you just gotta kind of take it with a grain of salt that the true security people actually know what they're doing, because I've even heard that the actual guy that wrote the actual paper for the authentication specification is not happy with how things turned out about the security specification that he wrote. So yeah, if he's not happy, I don't know who else will be. So it's like this, the best way I possibly can. Your app, let me see what I'm trying to explain here. When your app needs access to Gmail, okay, Gmail is going to say, I don't recognize this app. So it's going to send a consent screen to the user to say, hey, do you recognize this person? Question mark. And that person will say, oh, yes, I recognize that app. It's the AI email summarizer. And I would like to give it, I'm okay with giving it read access permissions to my, um, I'm okay with giving it read access permission. So you say, okay, that's cool. And then the dance is going to happen where you have auth0 here, right? AUTH 0. And auth0, then basically what's going to happen is when this thing, it will send the code to auth0, if I remember this correctly. Okay. It's always foggy in my brain. It's going to send it's going to go back to auth0. Auth0 is going to, the Gmail, it's actually who's the one, which is really thing. But you're going to, our application is going to get a code. Okay, after this consent form happens, we're going to get a code back into our application. Okay, and then we're going to take that code and we're going to make another API call to get back a token. And that token is what we can then use to then make requests to the Gmail API on our behalf. This is the part that just gets me confused every single time. And every time I have to go back to the documentation to remember how this stuff works. Because once you set it up and you get it right, and hopefully you get it right, you don't have to do it again. But then if you have to keep explaining it, you forget. And that's what's been happening to me over and over and over again. The bottom line is we're going to get authorization from the user to authorize our app to access their inbox, which then we will get a code, and that code will say, yes, you can now use this code to get an authorization token. Hopefully I've done that some justice. So the real question is who's asking for the token? And right now, because we're using a social provider, it's auth0 that's doing that work for us, I think. Right. So we're gonna retrieve the okay. So let me just make sure I got this right. So auth0 will not put the Google refresh token inside the ID by default. You retrieve it secretly by your API auth0 API management. So create a M2 machine to machine API. Right. Auth0 dashboard application. So yes, we have auth0 application. We do have a machine to machine. Where is it? Backend registration. Yes. And we did this part. So basically, in other words, auth0 is not communicating directly with Google. We have to then probe auth0 to then do the authentication. I think it's what I'm getting at here. So authorization to call API management with the scope current identity. For us to, I take that back, sorry. It's so that, where are we here? Auth0 will do that back and forth dance that I just described to get that code, but for some reason auth0 just kind of keeps it in their own thing. And our app have to then call auth0 directly to say, hey, can you get me that token? And then we can make that call. So it's just a little bit extra layer inside of there. Just keep that in mind, all right? And going forward, like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a whole series on this whole security thing. So at least we can at least get some guidance on it based on your use case. I have Better Auth that I'm planning to do, which is one of them, because Better Auth is sort of like one of the more popular ones that is up and coming right now. I use auth0. I want to do a Microsoft one and I want to do a Google one. So at least there's some variations in this like type of security stuff. And then once I do that, once I finish with that series, I'm just going to point you to that video. It's like, go watch that video. It'll tell you all you need to know about how to do the security. So auth with M2M API management access, response token. So I just got to make sure that we have API management access in here. So this is our application. It's machine to machine. And we want to make sure that the permissions are set correctly. API management access authorized. There we go. So that's perfect. So Auth0 recommend and securely thing. So use Gmail with tokens. So use a Gmail to access tokens in the endpoint. Test flow. From your app, trigger Auth0 your login with thing. Consent. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take this part. So we're gonna test to see if, because I don't know if I have every single thing set up. Because I know we did last week do the set up the authentication part, but I want to test this part. So let's just do this. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our application, and I'm gonna say, can you run it and then prompt ensure that we have a login. Can you use this instructions and then ensure that whenever you load up the application that we have a login page that will trigger so that I could trigger authentication with my Gmail application by redirecting me over to Auth0 to do this whole flow. And we need to test that this is working. So make the changes accordingly. Fact check that we have all of the features to make security work so that we can get access to the Gmail. And then on the callback, we'll need to have some sort of display to indicate that we have a successful login. So review the details and let me know what we need to do. Okay, this is where AI really shines, honestly, because yes, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's not secure," it's etc., etc. However, it just gets you through some of these hurdles that it's just really, really technical that allows you to get right. Doesn't mean you don't have to do security checks. Doesn't mean you have to do security scan, but at least it's doing sort of the bulk of the grunt work, right? Because the truth is, I actually don't remember where we left off in this app last week, and I actually don't remember whether I actually added the security back in codes already, which I don't think I did. Right, so let's see. So is there an env file in here? I don't know if there is. I don't think there is. And then let me reload. So let me just check the Cloudflare. So in Cloudflare, so this is the summarizer here. I don't know why I'm blurring this one out. Okay, so this summarizer, if I go to settings, I should see, did I add the variables and secrets? Okay, so I don't have any machine-to-machine secrets here, so I'm going to need to add those in, but we'll get it to give me the instructions on what to do here. So let's just see correctly, because it needs to create the local. Basically, we need to, in order for us to connect to Auth0, we need to have those secrets inside of the message, inside of the bindings here. So let's just see, based on my analysis, here's what needs to be implemented. Front end has a mock Auth0 but no real Auth0 thing. Okay, so that's great. So we need to make that. The callback page exists but doesn't handle tokens. Right, no login page, no route protection. So current Auth0 configuration in Nuxt but not used. Okay, it's great. So what it's going to do for us, I hope I'm in the right application. Let me just double check. Reveal in Finder. Yeah, okay, we're in the right application. So let's see where we're at here. So create a login page that triggers Auth0 Universal. Yes, okay. Connect with Google Auth. Request this token. Yes, that's fine. Token management. Backend token for exchange. Auth0 tokens. Yes, npm call blah blah blah. Retrieve Google refresh token. Yes. Store the token securely in a backend database. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna have to store them in a key vault. Auth0 must enable store access token and refresh token on Google connection. So store access token and store refresh token on Google. Okay, so we need to just make sure that that's done. So in here on the social side, it might be, but we just gotta double check it. So basically what we're saying is that once Auth0 makes that dance connection, it's going to store the token locally. So this is permissions. This is basically the permissions that we sync user profile at login, application. Okay, so maybe I don't have to manually do that. Maybe it's just set automatically. We'll find out in 2 minutes. Okay, so all right, still working through the details. So Auth0 must enable store token. So we got that already. MTM backend needs backend validation. Okay. Yeah. So, oh, you know what? I'm doing something wrong here. I'm totally messing up, guys. I really am. We had 2 apps. That's why I was getting confused. We have another app here. We have the front end and then we have the back end. Look at this. Under back end, oh my goodness, we have this one here. This is the one I'm supposed to be using for the back end type of dance. So you know what I have to do? I have to go to the mono repo because this is gonna make some real. It's gonna make some mistakes because it's not considering the back end. It's thinking that this is the only project that exists. I'm sorry, losing my mind here today. It's all part of the game, guys. This is how you learn. So hopefully I'm making some sense here. I'll tell you what's going on in a bit. Let me just put this in the right path. Okay, so let me just tell it to review my. Can you review my backend AI email summarizer and my front end AI email summarizer? And then I'm also going to tell it where is it? Boo, boo, boo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically just get it to just review this again because I made some mistakes. And I'll tell you exactly what the mistake is that I made. In a sec, I just want to get it going so we could address it. So can you review my backend AI email summarizer and my front end email summarizer and ensure that we're on the right path to getting this done correctly? I made some mistakes by making the front end try to implement the machine-to-machine part of the authentication, which should not be the case. It's the backend that should have that logic. So just double check that we're doing the right thing. Double check we're doing the right thing. Yeah, okay, that should be fine. So there's two parts, right? Like so let's just back up and I'm just going to try to explain this and unwind my craziness that I just did, that I just only realized just a while ago. So there's the front end to the application, right? What is the front end for the email summarizer? Okay, the front end to the application, literally, let's see if we can find a database. Yeah, there we go. Connects to the D1. Okay. And all it's doing is just reading the summary. That's all it's doing. It's just reading the summary information from D1 database. Nothing else. We now have a backend. Oh, I gotta upgrade for diagrams. Really? My goodness. You want me to upgrade for a gear? Sorry, I'm just using this for the first time. That's fine. We could use a cloud. So this is a worker. I for some I just completely I was just because I was doing too many things at the same time. I just kind of completely forgot about what we were doing on the backend side here. So I apologize for this confusion. So the backend is what's actually doing the vectorization. Okay, the backend is also responsible for dealing with this dance with Auth0, the app, and pulling the data from Gmail. Okay, the front end has nothing to do with any of that part. Once that dance happens, that dance, by the way, is also happening with Auth0. So let's just put this as Auth0. Okay, so it's your app. Okay, your app is my app is registered with Cloudflare, right? Google client. This is Google client. Okay, it gets confusing and it's very easy to kind of mix up the steps. So I'm going to try to unwind what I said earlier. So it's Gmail, Google client. Google client is registered with Auth0. Auth0 has a application, right? So there's two applications technically. There's an Auth0 application. There's a Gmail application. Okay, they're just think of them as just a way to have multiple programs use the same set of permissions. Think of them that way. So think of applications like a group, right? I give a group of people access to this house. So the app in this particular case is like a group, right? They're calling it the application, but really it's just a group. Why? Because I could have multiple apps use the same application, right? I could have app number one, I could have app number two use the same application. So it's really just a grouping, okay? It seems complicated, but that's basically how to describe it. So Auth0 has an application, and that application, when we do this back and forth dance, every single thing I mentioned about the key is valid, right? So Google is going to give us a code. After the user confirms the, oh my goodness, the writing is so small. So CODE. So authorization code, that authorization code Auth0 will use to basically get the token, okay? And Auth0 is going to store that token locally inside of Auth0. And then my application is registered with that application in Auth0. So it's registered with, see again, just think of it as a group. It's registered with this machine to machine. So what I'm going to do behind the scenes is I'm going to make a separate call and I'm going to say, hey, can you just get me that token? Can you go get me that token? Because I need it, right? Why do I need it? Because I need to go fetch some data. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to call, because when Auth0 gets the token, it only stores it locally. It doesn't share it with the application. Okay, so I have to now make a separate call to Auth0 to get that token, and then I have to bring it back into my application so that I could then make an API call to Gmail. So that's the part that I missed because I'd done this work before to set up that client set side of things, and what was happening, I was only working on this part here, and I couldn't for the life of me realize. I was like, I know I did some stuff with registration before, but I was working on the wrong thing. right? The front end application is what's going to happen is once this summarization happens, when we read the email, we're just going to dump it into the vectorized database, and we're going to dump it into the D1 database. How, right? So that's what we're going to do. This email here is only going to be responsible for reading from this. It's not even going to be, for the most part, going to the vector database. So it doesn't even have to do that. We might do some things with that, but for the most part, the front end is kind of isolated from all of that back-end infrastructure stuff that's happening because it's just reading from the D1 database. Hopefully that makes some sense. I kind of butchered it a little bit with all of the sort of craziness that was going on. So where we're at right now is we want to make sure that this Cloudflare worker will connect to this application Auth0 and get the token when we send it back. That's what we want to make sure that we're able to do. So let's see what you have here. So you're absolutely right. Your AI email summarization had the classic front end trying to do backend auth mistake, right? So this is, yeah, so this is a really big problem. In fact, this is a security problem. I want to be clear. And it's probably a lesson that I want to make sure that I try to teach going forward as well too, which is how do you ensure that your secrets for your application doesn't end up in your front end, because it gets very confusing, especially with Cloudflare, where the way how Cloudflare works is that when you do a deployment, you're deploying both front end and back end to the same worker, and they're behaving like it's all backend, but it's not all backend stuff. There's front end, which means that there's data that's going to sit on the client computer, and it's very possible that that client can have all of the secrets sitting in there. It's okay. So yeah, that's a real problem. You know what? In fact, let me just diagram it just a little bit more, just to make sure that everybody kind of understands this. This is a mistake that I've made as a seasoned developer that you will almost certainly make. And let's just talk about it for a bit because it's important. Let's just it's so important that, you know, I'm doing it at the risk of not finishing this thing, but it's super important. So let's do this. So it's like this. When you build an app, any app, it doesn't matter. It could be React, ACT. It could be Vue, right? I don't know, Svelte, SVELT. It could be Blazor, LAZOR. Okay, maybe Blazor might be a little different, so maybe we'll take that one out because Blazor has both client side and front side. No, all of these are basically client side here. When you build an app, any app, it doesn't really matter. You build an app. You got a bunch of bundlers. These bundlers in the old way it was Webpack, WBPACK, but we're in bleeding edge, cutting edge here, and basically Vite is taking over Webpack, VITE. Okay. All they're doing is basically just giving you HTML. Okay, and what they do is they inject the JavaScript into the page, and they inject CSS into the page, CSS, right? Really and truly, this is just a compression, and it's a zip file. Just think of it that way. Okay, I'm oversimplifying here, but it's really just think of it as they're just, because when you're building, you're using all kinds of different tools, and you have all different types of files, and you have all different TypeScript type of stuff. TypeScript does not run in the browser. This is something that is also confusing. TypeScript does not run in the browser. So this creates this kind of weird illusion that when you do a deployment, that your data is going to Cloudflare in one stroke, especially if you're doing the React Nuxt, Next. So Next.js. I actually believe this is one of the most confusing thing, next.js. I think it's one of the most confusing thing because when you actually do the deployment and you do that packaging, because of the way how front-end development works, it's actually two separate things that's happening on the back end. One is it deploys your backend, right? And it deploys a front end. And if you don't know what I'm talking about here, you're gonna have to go watch my foundations course because it'll help you to understand what we're talking about when we say thing here. But really and truly, this is a server. And this is a client. Matter of fact, let's do a shameless plug. So, because I forgot to mention this at the start anyway. So on my channel, we have a new series. See here, it's called Cloudflare Foundations Prerequisite. Let's see how many views we got. They're getting like, I just launched them yesterday. So see 9,999, right? And if you go in there, it talks about, see how request flows work. Where is it? This one here. How request flow work. And if you go in here, it talks about client and server. It's designed to be extremely simple, basic, no technical knowledge required, so that you can understand the basics and the foundation. Go watch this if you're having any problem keeping track or following with me on this video. Matter of fact, do the course. I designed it so that it could be, you could watch it in like under 8 minutes, roughly, if you notice. Let's call it under 10 minutes on average. The videos are very short. I call 10 minutes video short because normally I do like 20 minutes, 30 minutes video. So this is very short. I wanted to do very, very specific bite-sized information so you could just watch one little small thing and just get it. Okay, so go watch that if you're trying to figure out how this stuff works, or you're not following along. But it's important to get that because when you these modern development systems, what they do is when you do a deployment, they automatically do the deployment for the back end, and they automatically do the deployment for the front end. And the front end client, what normally happens with security, this is where a big security flaw is. Sometimes people inject security that should be on the back end on the front end. So in other words, they put their keys, so their security keys, their secrets, CRET, in the client side. When any secrets should only stay on the server side. You should never expose it on the client side. So this is a really big problem, but it's easy of a mistake to make if you're a new developer because your brain doesn't know how to like split where the information is going, right? Because on your front end, the way how these libraries work, and again, this is due to I would call this the curse of the modern web, because there's a lot of abstraction that's happening and it actually creates a confusion. Right? Because of the way how these work, you might have in here, I don't know if it's in Nuxt, this is what they do, but I think they have like a /server, VER. In fact, let's just look that up. So let's do it this way. In Next.js, where does the server side code go and where does the client side code go in terms of the directory? So see, server-side rendering runs only on the server. Yeah, so /server API. So any single thing in this server API goes on the back end, right? Routes, middleware, all this type of stuff is running on the back end. And then all these client pages, composables running on the front end. So it seems like when you do a deployment, it just goes up into one simple, right? It's all going to the same place, but it's not. It's actually going to two separate computers. That's why, like I said, this is a shameless plug for my course, but it matters that you understand this concept. Where is it? Jeez, just had it here. Okay, client side, server side. They're two separate things. Do not get confused by them. So in this particular case, Cloudflare Worker is basically serving both the client-side code and it's basically serving the backend code. So it gets confusing because there's what Cloudflare has done is kind of merge these two together, which makes it even more confusing, right? Like this worker is the reason why there's a reason why it's called worker and pages. Pages is actually the client-side version, is the client side, and workers is the backend side of it, right? In other words, workers is the server and pages is the client. But when you do a deployment, it goes into one thing, right? If that makes any sense, right? It's possible that from the one thing you could serve both client and server. That's kind of the issue here. So with that, the mistake that I made, hopefully that makes some sense. The mistake that I made was I was deploying secrets to the front end. It's basically what I'm like all around about to say that I was deploying secrets to the front end. And that's a problem. Okay. Boo, boo, boo. Right? So that's what we have to kind of untangle a little bit here. So the secrets for the Auth0 has to stay on this backend stuff, right? So this is the client again. Right, sorry. This is the client, CLIENT, right? And this is the back server. Okay, please don't make that mistake. Very important that you remember that. So yeah, so now that we have that, let's just go back and see what it says. So you're absolutely right. The AI summary on a classic front end trying to do backend auth mistake, which is what I found. Front end handled M2M authentication, which is what's wrong. So machine to machine, that's what this means. And the machine to machine authentication was trying to call API management, which is wrong. The backend is using direct Google Auth instead of using Auth0 social connection properly. Oh, is that what I did? Wrong token flow. So front end is trying to get Gmail tokens instead of backend. Missing authentication. So fixes applied. So simplified front end auth now only handles user auth via Auth0. Perfect. Login. Moved MPN M2M machine logic backend authentication service. Oh my goodness. Auth service now properly calls authentication management, and then corrected token flow. So stores the token. Auth0 stores a token, backend retrieves them from Gmail API. Yes. Added proper JWT verification, backend validates token correctly. Good. Okay. After correct. So front end calls Auth0. Auth0 is going to try to log in. Then that's going to give me your authentication. And backend is going to try to call the API management, which is going to get the token, which is going to get the Gmail access. So with that, add another button so that we could trigger from the front end, having the backend call into Gmail to retrieve one email and then return the status. We need to ensure that we have enough login so that we can see where things are breaking. So what we're going to do is after we return back to the front end page, we're just going to basically just trigger one button so that at least we could kind of, it's going to basically make a call. So we're going to have a button here. Okay. That button will then trigger the backend. It'll say, hey, can you go try and get the Gmail details? And then it's going to go make the call to Gmail. It's going to then return the results. And then it's going to then report to me what the status is, right? So again, the front end never calls Gmail directly. Just want to be clear with that. Else, you're going to leak secrets in the browser. Why? Just to be clear, just stressing it over and over here, I can right click and I can go to inspect and I could see the code for the entire application. Okay, I could go to sources, I can see the code there. I can go to network. I can go to applications. I can see every single thing that's being stored, cookies, all that type of stuff. See all of this here, right? Open ID. This is auth thing. Where's the token? Is there a token inside of here? So they might have the token. So normally you have like it's supposed to store in a secure cookie or whatever. But the point is that I can see everything. Okay, it's all here. Okay, if you're storing any single thing on the front end, I can access it, any application. It doesn't matter what it is. It's all inside of that. See this text session storage here, ChatGPT extension, cookies. All right, so these are all the cookies that are stored. It knows my name, some other ID information, right? Like somewhere inside of here, there's an authentication. Maybe see AUID, probably this one here. All right, so those things are stored in the front end. So you don't want to do that because that's the problem. And yeah. All right. So hopefully that makes some sense. Okay, so we're gonna make sure that this is sort of put together, and then we're gonna try to push this up, and we're gonna try to test it, see if we could get this working before the next half an hour. We did a little bit of merry-go-round today. If you're on TikTok, hi, how are you doing? The details are on YouTube. If you're watching, you're trying to figure out what the hell is going on, what the hell is this guy talking about, go to my YouTube channel and you'll be able to see what we're doing up there. Basically, we're doing vibe coding, learning how to build an actual production grade application so that we can launch it. And this is part of a weekly ongoing session about vibe coding. So now that I know how to put a banner up, hopefully you guys are seeing the banner properly and you're able to say, okay, this seems like something I'm interested in doing. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go on TikTok on a daily basis, independently of YouTube, because it's too confusing. I can't focus on anything. Boo, 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 boo. Yeah. TikTok is hard. Today's a slow week though. Not too many people are on. But the content must be recorded and people are going to watch it on their own time. That's the most important thing. And if you missed the first part, you could go to YouTube and watch the live. And if not, within 24 hours, the live is going to be taken down. The video is going to be chopped up and edited properly. And only the good parts, removing all of my random craziness, is going to be uploaded to YouTube. And then you could go watch the entire series on YouTube. So invite. Prioritize your comments. Mute. So not a lot of people join in. Join, say hi. Man, TikTok really wants you to like invite people to co-host, eh? Just keeps prompting, invite this person. Invite this person, invite. Like half of the feed is basically invite. Man, yeah, TikTok is a whole thing by itself. You gotta focus on this if you're... Yeah. It's an experiment. Okay, I think we're almost there. If you're joining on YouTube, we're just wrapping up here for the very first time. We're wrapping up, we're building a vibe coded application all with Cloudflare. We just went through a whole bunch of dance around security and how to access your email using Cloudflare workers. And what we're basically doing is just basically wrapping things up so we can deploy and do some testing. So feel free to stick around or watch the recording. They'll give some more context on where we are. Or say hi if you're new. Say hi. Okay, ready to test. Let's do a deployment and then we'll test it on Cloudflare. If there's any environment variables that I need to add, let me know also. Do a deployment for both the front end and the back end. So we're just going to do a deployment and then we're going to try to run tests. We're going to look at the logs. We're going to see what we got, see if it's actually working correctly, see what problems we run into. And then from there, we're going to make adjustments accordingly. This is week 2 of this. So if you're new and you're just following along for the very first time, it might be hard to kind of keep up with where we are. That being said, I do have a vibe coding course on my channel that could give you sort of the details on vibe coding 101. And I have a foundational course while I'm waiting for this. I have a course on the channel that is Cloudflare Vibe Coding Foundations 101 prerequisite. So this is a prerequisite to my real Cloudflare course that is coming. And hopefully you can, if you're new to vibe coding and you're not a technical person, this might be for you. If you are a technical person, there's more technical details coming along pretty soon. So yeah, a little bit of shameless plug. And if you haven't joined the community, join my free vibe coding community where we got 24 members and we got one course inside of there and we got people sharing their ideas and what they're working on, and I can then connect with you on a one-on-one basis. And see here, you could get access to the live right away inside of there, but we could do group calls and share sort of the challenges that you're having in, share the experience, etc. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to join. Boo, boo, boo. Or say hi. Say hi. All right, doing the deployment, and then we're going to do some testing. And then we're going to wrap this baby up. We're going to wrap this baby up. Now let me deploy backend first. So I need to production ready URL, AI email backend. Yeah, so the good thing about Wrangler is that it just kind of takes care of a lot of this stuff. In fact, it could actually do the secrets as well too. All right. Oh, while I'm waiting for all this stuff to think, so I'm going to put out a poll because I'm curious on what you guys want to do. Do you guys want to go more in depth on security? Some people have asked me to security, so I have to do some videos on that. Next week, I'm going to be focusing on specifically on Cloudflare Essentials. That's the video that I'm working on, building Cloudflare Essentials. But if you guys want me to do more on security and building out more apps like this, I'm happy to do it. Or we could just do more, instead of like live coding, we could just do more like, call it presentational style, where we just kind of talk about high level concepts. So I'm going to put out a poll on this so that we could get some feedback where you guys want me to do a little more business stuff, or you want me to try to talk about the code a little bit more, talk about sort of like technical or business, or both. We can do both. Totally cool. Okay, still being deployed, so we're waiting. We're gonna wait. So I have a low stream count today because I'm competing. Competing is a word, is relative. I think I'm competing with I'm competing with Microsoft has a live event right now. So there's the .NET conference that's going on right now, by the way, and I tend to pay attention to whatever gets launched by Microsoft because I'm a .NET fan or a .NET developer by trade. I pay attention to it, and they do these 24-hour sort of like deployment. You're now an intern. So they do they're doing .NET sort of everything, deployment, .NET 10, talking about building on Aspire, building devs. What is he building here? I saw a login page. Where is it? Here. So anyway, my point is, I'm competing with this. So I'd like to believe that this 117 people that's watching here live is competing with my stream. And clearly they're winning. And who else is on that's doing live right now? Turn AI into cash. Okay, that's cool. We got using GPT 5.1 apps live. Yeah. You know what? I stopped chasing views this way. I'm not saying I won't ever do a video on GPT, but I was like, you know what, GPT 5 doesn't seem to be doing. First of all, GPT is not doing any single thing for me right now. So I have decided that I don't even care because Claude Sonnet is solid for me right now. It's working. Every single time I try GPT, it fails. Like every time. It just fails. So yeah, we're gonna keep doing that anymore. We're just gonna skip it. Claude Sonnet works, so we're just gonna do that. Oh, I think this thing is stuck. Let me do a new window. Can you deploy my AI backend, AI summary backend, and AI summary frontend? Yeah, it was definitely stuck. Who else do we have here? Oh, by the way, you guys want to challenge this guy here? Insane. I watch him almost every day. Not every day because I think, but I do his workouts and oh my goodness, like please, let's just go follow this guy. This guy is just while we wait on the AI to kind of come true. He like his energy is just yeah. Guys does like 400 push-ups in the morning, 4 a.m. and then 4 p.m. every single day. Talk about dedication. Like yeah. Creating and developing a website with minimum technical knowledge, how to. So who are we competing with? We're competing with this guy. Yeah. 4 people inside of there. This guy has 62 watching because they want to know all the stuff about GPT. I'm just curious what's on the internet right now. Who am I competing with? Making an operating system and yapping. No, we're doing live, so I want to see just the live people. Just seeing who I'm competing with. 1.3, solve puzzles and game, entertainment. Who else am I competing with? All the game folks. Flat bridge camera. Wow. Flatbridge, Jamaica. Crazy. No walls, no nothing. Jeez. That's all the live that's happening right now. What's this guy doing? UX design, track week. Okay, where are we? Is this thing done? Okay, almost there. Front end is configured to use variables, Nuxt public URL, or localhost. I need to set public URL. Okay, so we're just going to wait a little bit more so let us finish up. Not a lot of lives today. People are exercising. Politics, maybe. People are watching games. Yeah, the lives are dead today, huh? Interesting. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, so we got a deployment on the front end. Set up authentication if needed. So your AI summarizer is now live, okay? We're gonna jump to that. Initiate database for storing data. So open up, let's see what we got here. Okay. First things first, when I go to the home page, I see nothing. How do I get the login going? How do I connect? What do I do? How do I authenticate? Where's my button to see after I call back to test the Gmail integration? So I'll help you set up authentication flow, create the necessary UI components with the AI summary. Let me first check the current state of the front end, application guidance, setting up thing. Let me check the current environment variables. All right, this is the only thing about AI, so you have to just kind of sit around and wait, right? This is why I don't like to see when people say, you know what, vibe coding is just, you know, oh, you just let the AI just run and do its thing. Like you have to babysit it, you have to watch it. In fact, I've been getting so religious about the way that I work with AI that I don't try to do 10 things. I just focus on one and just get it done and then move on to the next because I find that my brain is not capable of running 5 or 6 things simultaneously. You know, people say, oh, let the AI run a whole bunch of stuff in the background. The only time that I do that is when, let's say, for example, yesterday I was getting my kid together to go to school, and while I was helping him, I just had the AI doing some stuff in the background. I dropped him off to school, so by the time I came back, the AI was finished with the work that he was doing, and then I continued. So that's the only time that I tend to just kind of let the AI sort of run in the background type of deal. But you know, when I'm like actually sitting behind a computer and actually trying to get things done, I don't do that because I find that you do have to have some level of mental tracking of the code. And that's really important. Else, yeah, you just, it just doesn't work the way that you anticipate it will work. and then you don't know what went wrong because you weren't necessarily tracking it, and then going back and reading all those files, it's just a lot of pain that you could have just avoided by just sitting there and just spending the time. So yeah, not the yeah, launching too late in app development. Ask for launching tips. Who's this? I don't know what this is. Oops. Sorry, let me. Okay. What happened to my. Ba 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 ba. Okay, hopefully we're gonna get this up. We got 20 more minutes here. Waiting for the AI. Waiting for the AI. We do have a lot of interaction. Else I'd be talking a little bit more, but I don't want to. Just gonna wait for the AI to finish, and then we're gonna wrap up. Okay, why don't we have some scone in the meantime? Oopsie. If you're on TikTok and you just join in, we're just finishing up here, but welcome. Join my vibe coding community. We're just wrapping things up right now. We just launched a AI email summarizer, and we're just basically trying to test it. So North America, US, North America, Eastern US, yes. That's not enabled. Yeah, I'm gonna try to vibe code and I wonder if SnapSuite has it. Interesting. We'll see. So yeah, if you just join in on TikTok, we're just finishing up. Okay, so we have a homepage is now functioning, being deployed. Let's go see what we got here. Refresh. Still don't see anything, buddy. Is there an error? Oh, you know what? The link is, yeah, the link changes because it's giving me the direct link instead of the generic link. Oops. Let me just do it this way. Basically, every time you deploy to Cloudflare, you get one of these unique URLs. But the best thing to do is just use the default main URL all the time. It'll always go to the latest stuff. So we're just going to use that so we don't have this problem. Interesting. So we got an error here that has to do with hydration. I'm currently getting this error about hydration and completing. Can you turn off on the front end server-side rendering? So this is a interesting thing. So I normally tend to just disable server-side rendering on any of my front-end applications. And the reason for doing that is I want to ensure that my backend and my front-end are completely separate, completely independently, right? So just going back to this diagram for a second here, right? Not this diagram here, just going back to here where we have React, Vue, and Svelte, right? All three of these different documents here. I tend to let the bundler not have anything like, so again, if you're going through Webpack or you're going through Vite and it creates your bundle, I never ever from the front end application generate any backend code. I just don't do that. What I normally do is I have a separate, completely different application that has all of my backend logic that I point to, because I personally find merging of my front end and backend sort of a little confusing. There's some benefits to it because you have every single thing in one place and you could just sort of iterate from that perspective. But coming from a more traditional world where if you're building a scalable architecture, you got to separate these things. I tend to just keep them separate because they're when you separate them, then you just have isolated sort of concerns that you can work on. So that's super important, and that's basically what I do for all my things. So there's no point in me having hydration and all this stuff here. So deployment successful. Let me just server-side rendering. Yeah. So now I've disabled server-side rendering. It did a deployment again. So now in theory, if I go back to this guy here and I do a refresh, we should get better results and not have to deal with. Let's see. Yeah, why am I not seeing any single thing? Not even logs. What's going on here? Let me do this outside of in um, incognito, because one of the problems is that I find that, let's see. Oh, interesting. Just only seeing a blank page. Currently, I'm only seeing a blank page on my front end. What's going on? Can you put some logs in the console so I can at least check and see what's going on? Yeah, but anyway, the point is I always sort of disable server-side rendering. Other people might have other strong opinions about this, but again, I'm not a traditional front-end developer. I'm mostly a back-end developer that has evolved to doing front-end and full stack in every single way. And I know that if you're building a really large-scale application, just purely from experience, that these things have to be separated. Now, that's not to be confused with having every single thing in a mono repo, which is still important, right? Having your code front end and your back end in a mono repo is super valuable, super important. When you do your deployments, you're going to deploy all in separate services, backend services, front end services, etc. That's really, really valuable and certain. So you can see all the code in one place, but not necessarily have all of the code merge onto one application, if that makes sense, right? It's kind of like a subtle difference, but it's a big difference. All right. So we're gonna make sure that we always preach that. And while I'm doing this here, maybe what I'll show you guys is how I do my deployments on the back end with GitHub. While I'm kind of waiting for this stuff here, I'll pull up GitHub just to show you how my mono repo is set up and how things are kind of set up. So here I have a mono repo for my main project here, mono repo. It has several different sections. So it has an apps folder with quite a few apps inside. It has an API folder with containers, workers, functions, right? It has some clients folders. It has the database folder. It has a docs folder. It has a scripts folder. It has a build folder. It has a packages folder, etc. And when I do deployment in GitHub, here, each application get each API. See here, deploy API. So what it's basically doing, the way how it's set up is that it just monitors just that folder, and if that folder had any change inside of it, it will do a deployment on that folder specifically. So the GitHub Actions are designed specifically to monitor the individual folder of that project and then do a deployment properly. And this is the right and correct way to do things. This way, you're not forced to deploy your front end and your back end in order to get your application to work, right? Like it's possible that you might have a break and change on the back end and still can't keep your front end up. But if you have every single thing merge into one, it really becomes hard and problematic for you to sort of like do consistent deployments in micro doses. Hopefully that makes some sense, right? If you're new on YouTube, I see you got a couple of people just joined. We're just wrapping up right now. Basically just trying to test the deployment of this application. We're going to see if it actually works. Yeah, why is it? You know what? Let's just run it locally and see what's going on, because it's just not running. Can you run the front end locally and test it? I seem to be getting some errors here. Need to get it sorted out. Yeah, so the back end, we're just at the testing phase right now, just trying to get it running, see if we could get it going here. But we have kind of done all the work to get our front end, our API integration going with Gmail, Auth0, and what we're going to do is to test it and just make sure that all the pieces are kind of working correctly. So we're just kind of basically just waiting for it to finish its task so that we could actually start to test it. And we were running into some problems. If you're new, say hi. If you want to know a little bit more about me, join our community, Vibe Code to Profit. And it's a free community right now. And can't guarantee it'll be free forever, but it's free for now. So join the community And if you got questions about vibe coding, you need help, guidance, how to build a scalable application, book a call with me. Links are in the community for that. And then I will help you to figure out what is your sort of execution plan to vibe code a application, how to launch it, how to build it. The goal is vibe code to profit. So we're always about how do you build an application, but not only build it from a technical standpoint, how do you launch it? How do you think about launching? Today we actually talked a little bit about how to think about your launching an application, and what are the pieces that you need to sort of consider. And every week we're here from 1 to 4 p.m. And we're going to do a little bit of business at the start of each call, and then we're going to do technical on the back end. So come for the front end, come for the back end of the call, or come for the entire thing if you can. Stick around on a Friday afternoon with me, or you could just watch the recording, not pre-recorded, the recording of the live session that's edited and trimmed down so that all the silence and the unnecessary parts are taken out. So let's see if we can get this bad boy to run, because I think we got some sort of weird problem here. It's not showing me anything on the page and not being seen any console logs either. So starting localhost. So let me see if I could run it. Localhost not found. So front end is on 3000. Front end is on 3000. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's just giving me a blank page. I don't know what's going on here. Just giving me a blank page. Computer, stop. Yeah, so we got a bit of a problem that I need to just get debugged so we can move forward here. So we see experimental API key will change. View failed to resolve app header. So let me just feed it into this, because I think it's just not picking up this error here. So I'm gonna have to babysit it a little bit. Come on. By just letting it know that the problem is the fact that, so stop it and then say, can you check my front end? This is the problem that I'm having. Yeah, so just got to feed it a little bit here. Again, this is where the AI kind of falls short a little bit, right? Because it actually knows how to solve this problem, but it's not deterministic. That's the fancy word of saying that it's not the same thing that you put in every single time. It's not going to give you the same set of results every time. So as a result, you end up starting this weird loop where you have to keep experimenting, and also you have to be able to at least do some debugging to kind of see what the problem is, right? Like, so if you notice, I've been almost, I want to say almost 20 minutes, yes, on this one problem where it just couldn't figure out what the issue is, just kept showing me the same thing over and over. So eventually you got to go into the console, kind of feed it the error message, give it the details, and then look at saying, oh, I can see the issue. You have both a app and a file regular structure, pages, blah, 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 right? Like, it's just getting confused, and so it's just causing some problems. So you just have to have some skill set in order to kind of understand where the problems are. And actually, that's going to be one of the videos that we're going to do also, is how to debug an application. How do you vibe code and debug an application? I remember when I was starting out, like debugging and vibe coding, it was just like, what is going on? I actually don't know what's going on here. So let's see. Okay, if the let's see if the one is, let's see if it's done. So 3001. So let's just do it. Let's just test it, make sure that it's actually doing the right thing before we actually deploy here. So 3001. Empty reload here. Yeah, okay, a little bit more progress. So auth me fetch no response. So that's good. So let me just, I'm gonna give it this here because I just want to make sure that it's doing the right thing. But this is good. This is good. So let's go back here, drop this in there. just to make sure that I actually address some of the issues here. So I can see your front end is trying to connect to the backend API connection refused. Okay, that's fine. Okay, which matches? Yeah, that's fine. So tell you what, can you do a deployment of both the front end and the back end for the AI summary, and make sure that the front end on once deployed knows how to call the back end, like the correct URL. Fantastic. Okay, so we're up on time here, but I'm going to try to see if we could at least test this thing here, see if we could get it going before we kind of close things off. So we got a couple more people that just joined recently. Welcome. If you're new here, say hi. And if you're wondering what the hell we're doing, we're building an AI email summarizer that's going to read your email and then use Cloudflare to summarize it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. We're here every Friday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. talking about vibe coding and Cloudflare and business and launching apps. So you want to know more about who we are and what we do, links up at the top. Join the community, book a call with me, or just lurk. Go to the if you're non-technical, do the course that gives you a guidance on how to vibe code. So we are doing the deployment, and once this deployment is finished, we'll be able to do some testing and hopefully see some good errors that puts us in the right direction. So the backend course has been configured to include the front end. Fantastic. That's what we want to see. So we're going to, I joined back around 50 minutes ago. You look tired now. That's funny. Yeah, you know what? I am a little tired today. That's true. That is true. I was up probably until I got up at 11 p.m. last night. So I went to bed at like 9, maybe a little bit before that, maybe like 8:30 or something like that. Got up at 11, worked until the morning hours, slept for about 2 hours again, and then started again. Yeah, so this is fair. This is fair. I appreciate you pointing that out. That's funny. So anyway, you came for the good part, because we're just doing a test now to see if the entire thing is actually launched and working online. So here we have that. Let me just see if the backend is finished, and then we're going to do a little bit of testing. So yeah, but good to know that you're back, too. Good to know you're back. Fun fact, I was actually here for a while by myself, which is fine. You know, it's all good. I'm just recording a video. It's going to be on the internet. Somebody's going to watch it, and somebody's going to get value in the future. So I'm not too worried about whether I show up here and I'm the only person or not. These videos are going to go out. Somebody's going to get value from it, and then we're going to keep, growing slowly over time, and then, and then we're just going to take over the world, because that's what we're here about. Funny enough, I was watching the growth curve of Python, and if you look at the growth curve of Python over the last like 20 years or something, it's been extremely slow and thing. While all the other languages come up and down, whatever, Python's just been an upward trend over, and then suddenly it's like the one number one languages. People are like, oh, why is Python so popular? It's because it was growing over time consistently, and it's just slowly gaining traction. Same thing you could say about Postgres database. I didn't know that Postgres was an open source database, and to this day not controlled by any single large corporation. They're independent in every single way of the word. It's a community driven effort. I find that fascinating. All right, moment of truth. We need to pull up some things here. Let's pull up our Cloudflare dashboard. Pull up our Cloudflare dashboard, and what we're going to do is we're going to go into metrics. I just learned Fast API Python. Yeah, Fast API is pretty good. I saw an interview with the creator of Fast API, and he is he has his head on his shoulder. He knows what he's doing, man. It's a great framework, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So how do I? Okay, where's my logs again? Oh my goodness, Cloudflare to keep changing things on me here. Where is my logs? Metrics, custom domain settings. You know what? I just realized that this is actually the pages. Anyway, doesn't matter. We're gonna ignore this for now. I'm actually deployed on cloud. This is the older deployment for Cloudflare. So just started, eh? Just started. Cool, man. It's a great framework. It's fantastic. So, okay, let's just do this. We're not going to look at logs. We're just going to just pretend like this is going to work the first time, okay? Of course it's going to work. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, click. Ugh. Oh, of course. Your host tenant is wrong. Of course. The simple errors. So we need to give it the tenant. Okay, fair enough. Cool. I'll take it. I'll take it. So let's go back to auth0. Where's auth0? Let's go back to auth0 and make sure that we have the right host. Where is where? How do we get the host again? Oh, it has to be here. And we're going to say the front end or the back end is complaining that the host, auth0 host, is wrong. Do we need to put this in an environment variable, or do you have it hard coded? This is the host. Not a bad error, but an annoying one. So Nuxt application domain. So let me just check. So is it putting it in the domain name? Yeah, I think it is, right? Let's just see. Or maybe it is. I don't know where it's putting it. Let's see. Come on. Just started. Yep. Silly mistake. Silly mistakes. So yeah, okay. It's putting it in a public. Yeah. Okay. So client ID. Okay. I think it'll just deploy it by itself. Let me just see. Let me just update that here so the front end config to match. Yeah, it should just. Oh, let me redeploy. Yeah, it should just redeploy it by itself. Let me just make sure too. So if I go back up here and I go back to Cloudflare, where are you? Let's go back to here. Come on, and then okay, this is the back end. Settings. Yeah, okay, so here this is what you should notice. This is how you know the difference when you're on the front end or when you're in the new stuff and you're in the old stuff. So notice if I click on this guy, right, I could see overview metrics, right? If I click on metrics, I could see a lot more detail. So this is the new worker merged with pages implementation. I got deployments, I got bindings, I could see here, observable. This is the logs, right? I should enable this because that's what I wanted to do. Enable the logs and deploy. Hopefully I'm not breaking the deployment. Yeah, so there I could see the logs, right? However, if I go back to the exact same interface of the front end, which I have here, I'm pretty certain this is the front end, yeah. Right, see, this is the old interface. So you have to be careful with this because the AI just deployed one old and one new. So I don't have any login here. This is the problem. So I'm kind of working blind right now. And yeah, let me just see if it actually is asking to. No, it's doing the deployment to the front end here. So let's see. It's updating the environment variables itself, I think. Working on AI fix, yeah. Configuration fix, dot variables thing, your domain there instead of whatever, AI summary, updated, cores, blah, blah, blah. All right, moment of truth again. Bam. It's funny you say I look tired. You know what it is? The energy in the room. There's nobody, so I'm just like just here by myself, just doing stuff. But let's see. Okay, there we go. Progress. This is not a bad error. So there could be a misconfiguration of service and plus or service things. So invalid client ID here, right? So I'm getting this on Auth0. So this is cool. This is actually known problems because it can. When I click and refer over to Auth0, I'm getting invalid client ID. So we need to set the client ID. I'm going to get it for you. So we need to go back into Auth0 here and no, I just got to do it. So this is a machine to machine. So this is actually the wrong client ID. Or wait. Yes, no, that's right. I need to go to the, oh, hang on a second. Okay. No, No, I got a problem. I don't think we, which client am I using? Good question. Vibe coding 101. Oh, you know what oh, damn it. Am I using this one? It's saying invalid ID, but am I implementing this on the front end or on the back end? I might have to create a new application for the front end. Let me just, you know what, we're gonna have to do it anyway. We know we have to do it, so we might as well just get it done. Because I have this, or you know what, I could just use this guy. I'll just use this guy because it's the same vibe code and URL Auth0, right? And then we're gonna put the, yes, that's what we're gonna do. Let me just make sure your callback URL. So navigate and create a single page application and set it front end. You know what? Use this client ID, and I'm going to copy these. Use this client ID, and then we're going to go to this. We're going to rename this later on. That's, oh, actually we just do it already. Vibe coding 101 app. So it's not specifically for the video coding app anymore. And then we could go to this guy, paste this callback URL. So we could test locally also. Kind of don't really want that right now. I'm just going to test online. And instead of using that URL, we're going to use the proper front-end URL. There we go. Dev and, oops, gotta get rid of that. Yeah, there's no point in taking, now I don't know if I have to allow social media out on this here. We'll find out in 2 seconds. So I need to do comma, right? Save, do commas again. Yeah, so I might have to do connectors here. Social media. Okay, it's already enabled. Yeah, okay, so we should be good now. So, okay, so I did that. Make sure you do a deployment again. Make sure we have the latest. Did it already? It might have done it. Let me just see. I will just test it and see. I probably just did it. I'll do fresh deploy. Yeah, okay. Moment of truth. If we can get to the Google page, then we should be okay, because at bare minimum, we should at least get to, let's see. 4:18. Gotta close off soon. So let's do moment of truth here. Moment of truth. Where are we? Copy this URL. Copy this, paste that here. Bam, click on that. Oh, still a problem. Callback mismatch. Annoying. Okay, you know what? I'm going to use their URL for a second here. So the problem is the application. I'm going to tell it to you. So basically, it's not using this URL here. It's using this URL down at the bottom here. So let me just tell it. Can you ensure that all my callback URLs is using the generic URL for the front end, which is this one? Then do a deployment again so that I don't get the mismatch in callback error. Come on. Oh, I don't need the summary. Stop the summary. Simple errors. But this I wouldn't consider this one an error so much. In the meantime, I'm going to test with this URL here. What's the problem now? Unauthorized. Oh, right. Of course, because I didn't put that URL in Auth0. Okay, let's just wait. Let's just wait. Boop, 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 boop. Almost there. Almost there. And hopefully if we do our job right, we should be going from our app to Auth0. Click on the social icon button for Google. That should then do a dance to Google authorization, allow us to authorize our app to then save the token in Auth0, which will then allow our app to then call Auth0 for the token, which will then allow us to call Gmail. Fingers crossed. The beauty of development, it's a whole dance over and over. And if you notice, most of the time we've been spending, and at least in the last couple of weeks, it's just been on security. It's like it's the thing that will take up probably arguably one of the most time, which is why I want to make sure that I set up a framework to abstract all of these details from the vibe coders, because it's like you just spend so much time on it. Once you get it abstracted away, then you don't have to think about it. You just basically have thing. It's and obviously on that note, it's one of the reasons why I do like Cloudflare, because you can just come into Cloudflare, just basically flick one switch, even though it's hidden, right? It's hidden here. This Cloudflare safe. You switch that switch out and it just adds authentication. It's not adding it on your application. It's just doing a layer above your application so that the minute it hits the network, it just redirects to authentication. It's the way how I've been able to protect. So for example, this is my own application here, the dashboard.snapsuite.io, right? And I don't even think I could log out of it because I don't think the logout actually works still. But if I go to incognito and I hit that, because Cloudflare is aware of the network, Cloudflare just redirects to Microsoft right away. So I have to log in with Microsoft before I could even get in there. So it just mitigates a lot of this dance that I'm kind of doing on the authentication level. So let's see. Come on. Need to set up a custom domain for... No, I don't want you to set up a custom domain for front end and then configure it. Really? Oh my goodness. Now I need to set up a custom domain. I don't need a custom domain, sir. It's doing the wrong thing. It's doing the wrong thing. Let me see, because it might just work because it's already configured to do the right thing, but let's see. Refresh, click on it. Yeah, it's not still doesn't recognize the URL because that's the reader. You know, okay, I'll tell you what. We're going to cheat a little bit here. In the interest of time, we're going to take this URL here. We're going to add it to Auth0. No, we won't do that because you know what? It's going to cause another problem afterwards. Okay, just for testing purposes, just so we can move forward. We're going to put that URL in here. And then we're going to have to go back and change it every time. But it is what it is. So then a copy, oops. Just so I could just proceed with testing while the AI figures out what it's doing in the interest of time. So now I could save this. Now Auth0 knows about that URL. So if I refresh this here and I click on this, Auth0 should, well, I say should. 1.4, what did I put in there? 1.4.2. Which one did I say? Of course. Really? So I need to put this URL. In here. I need to put this URL in here. And this URL here. Save, then go back to this, then refresh this, then go to this. There we go. Oh, URL mismatch. Great. Okay, this is not bad because all what's happening is Google is saying, I don't really recognize this URL here because you're doing something different. So how do we deal with that? We could go to this guy here and we could go to AI email summarizer and we could add this URL. And redirects these ones here. I think I might have to put the callback in as well too. I think so. Oh, I can't end with this. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's try that. So let's try here, refresh, click on this guy. Because this app is sent, this app sent an invalid request. You can try app later. If you're a developer, clear details. You can't sign into this app because it doesn't comply with Google Auth policy. If you're an app developer, register the redirect URL. You know what? It has to be the details is the Auth0. Yes, okay. So yes, okay, got you. So we have to register Auth0's URL in there because it's coming from Auth0. Forgot about that. So we have to register. Come on. We have to register Auth0's URL because that's where it's actually coming from. Oops. The flow is coming from this guy. Right? Because Auth0 is the one that's going to actually get the security token. Let's try that again. 5 code in. Redirect. Did it deploy it? Yeah, this is stuck. Let me just. Can you just double check all of my settings and do a redeployment again? So refresh this here. Click on this. Why am I still getting an error? If you're an app developer, register the redirect URI in Google Cloud Console. Redirect URI is this. Yeah, so we did that already. It might just be taking a little time to, let me just edit it. JavaScript origin, redirect URIs here, invalid request cannot contain white space. Come on. Save. Close. Refresh. Sign in. There we go. Dwain on finish. Google hasn't verified this app. You have been given access to the app. You've been given access to an app that's currently being tested. You should only continue if you know the developer. Yes, continue. Right, so sign into Auth0, Google Auth0, verify, blah, blah, continue. Auth0 wants to access your Google account to view emails and read emails. Select all, please. Thank you. Continue. Authorization failed. Okay, better, like pretty good. The question is, why did it fail? But okay, that's cool. So we're gonna say I was able to get to the authentication page, and I was able to go all the way to Gmail, and I was able to do enable the access page, the authorization page on Gmail. But then when it returned back to my account, I got this URL with the message authorization failed. Yeah, so that's interesting. I'm curious as to why that would be the case. I'll put this in. Ba, 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 4:30. Oh, we gotta close off. Okay, let's see if we could get one more piece working, and then we're just gonna close off. Either way, that's progress, because we've now done the full dance pretty much. I think if I go to Auth0, you could see the user in here. Let me see in the logs. Let's go see what's going on in the logs.
It's almost time to pick up your child.
Yes, ma'am. So let's go see. Yeah, okay, there we go. So look, Dwain Unfinished is in the database with connection of Google Auth. 1 minute to go. So it is registering me properly inside of there. So I am registered in here. So that's good. That's actually like very far enough. We got the Google information. We got all the pieces for Google. So it's actually, I don't think it's any problem on the Google side. It's just some misconfiguration on our side, which is fantastic. I see the issue, the backend only has Auth0 domain, the secret, but needs several other authentication secret. Right, okay, to call back the API. So yeah, okay, so the client ID is fine. And then it's going to ask me for the client secret, enter value. So the client ID is this, applications. This is for the backend. So this is the client ID. So we need to put that here, enter the client secret value, client ID. And then it's going to ask me for the secret, which is this guy. And paste that, enter. Perfect. So now we got the secret. So let's just do a deployment now. Redirect URL. So the redirect URL will be this one. I want it without the AI summary thingy. Okay, you know what? We're just gonna have to go with this for now. No. Yeah, okay, let's do that. No, I don't want to do this. Let me not do this, because this is going to cause a problem if I do it this way. So let me do the redirect URL, because we have to fix this problem, else we're going to run into other problems in the future. We have to make sure that the URL is this one here. So this might actually cause a problem, but we know how to fix it later on. So that will be the redirect URL. So we need to ensure that this is the, yeah, okay, so that's what it is. The issue is that we're seeing a different URLs here. Yes, I know that. So which prevents blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. So all we got to do is just make sure that the URLs match up and we're good. We're at least having access. So that's fantastic. I think it's fixing it. Let's see. So the issue is that we're seeing different URL and thing, which is a preview deployment. So let's update the environment to use the proper production URL. Fantastic, right? So the environment is already correct. Good news. Auth0 callback endpoint. So in theory, we should be able to get this working again without, let's see, we should be able to get this working with the new URL because we have all the pieces configured both in Auth0 and in Google. All right, fingers crossed, almost there. It's time to go pick up my child, so I'm gonna have to leave. All right, let's see if we could get some closure here. Some closure. Good now. WhatsApp. What are you asking me for here? Oh, redirect URL. Let me make sure I got the right one. Save, call back this one. So that's a redirect callback URL. Okay, so let me update the front end. Yeah, can you get rid of the preview URLs? That's what we should do. We want to get rid of the preview URLs. Okay, should be okay. Should be okay. It's deploying the front end and the back end. Yeah, I don't like the fact that it's still keeping this preview URL inside of here because it's not, we want to get the real URL being used. So come on. Come on. Almost there. Almost. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to tell it to get rid of the preview URL. I'm going to deploy this front end. Okay, deploying. Come on, come on. Okay, so can you get rid of all the preview URLs from my local environment variables? We only want to use the proper URL. Yeah, we got to do the right thing, else it's going to cause some problems in the future. So Wrangler seeking. Oh, why does he keep asking me for the same thing over and over? Let me just tell it. Yeah, I just want to tell it to make sure that thing here from Brazil. Oh, hey, you got a new user, man. Hey, welcome. How are you doing? Hello from Brazil. Thanks for your Cloudflare videos. You're welcome, man. You're welcome. 100%. All day long. We're here every single time. Feel free to join again. We're wrapping up, but I appreciate you just messaging and saying thanks for the videos. Um, we're gonna be putting out better quality videos soon. I'm working on a full end-to-end Cloudflare sort of guidance course that's going to be able to take you guys from like zero all the way up to like scalable architecture. Oh, fun fact for you guys while we're on this call, and we just got like a few very limited amount of people. So, Cloudflare earnings, it wasn't this week. No, it wasn't a thing. As you know, so Azure had their earnings this week. AWS had their earnings, I think, the week before or whatever. AWS earnings, I think, if I remember correctly, is 33 billion in the quarter. That's some stupid numbers. Okay, now contrast that to Apple and Google. That's in 100 billion for the quarter. So even AWS and Microsoft are way behind. Billion. Okay. Azure for the quarter was 26 billion. So creeping up um, on Azure on AWS, and they're both growing at some pretty impressive rates. I want to say 20% or something like that, like some big numbers. Cloudflare, to put things into perspective, um, is only a $500 million company, 500 million, which is crazy. 500 million. That's it. So I was like, oh man, that's crazy because if you look at the trajectory of Cloudflare, Cloudflare is growing 33% year over year. And I went back and ChatGPT to figure out when Azure was a $500 million company, how much it was growing. They were growing at the same growth rate. So that tells me that Cloudflare in 5, 6, 7, 8, call it 10 years time will be a very big and different company, completely different. So just putting that out there. We're on the right path. All you people that are interested in Cloudflare, like, trust me, it, it's going to get wild, and you guys are going to be like pioneers and a whole lot of developer, like you will be in demand for Cloudflare because of the growth trajectory. So just thought I'd put that out there as a thing. Let's see if we could get this going. We're gonna wrap this up in 2 minutes. 2 minutes time. Okay, click on this. Of course, because now the URL is changed. The client ID. The client ID is different. Oh no, that's what it is. It's this one here. We don't want this. We want this URL. We're going to click on it. URL mismatch again. Yeah, still trying to do the wrong URL in. Yeah. Okay, hang on a second. Let's see if we could get this fixed. See if we could get this fixed. You have to go here. You have to go here. And we have to see if we could get the bindings. Configure route. It's hard coded. So you know what we have to do? We have to go here and we have to take this Nuxt public URL and we have to add it here as a secret and collect this guy here. It's not actually setting up the secret. That's what's going on right now. So I have to manually do it. And then do this. That's what's going on. And then we need the client ID as well too. And then we need the domain name. Okay, and then I'm just going to tell it I think it was doing it in the wrong location, so I just manually did it. Okay, we're going to try to close this off. Close off. Come on. No, you stop what you're doing. I don't care what you're doing. I'm going to say, hey, I think you're deploying the Cloudflare, the secrets to the wrong location in the dashboard. So I basically manually added the secrets and the redirect URL. Can you double check and then make another deployment? All right. I'm going to have to close off in a bit, guys. But listen, man, I welcome. Join the community. Join the Vibe Coding community. Link is up at the top there. join and reach out to me, connect with me. You're in Brazil, so you're in my neighboring country, by the way. I was born in Guyana, South America, so literally, my country and your country touch the same border. So we're connected in some way already. But yeah, join the community. Reach out to me. Let me know what you're working on. I'd be happy to learn what's going on in your world, and any single thing that I can help you with. More than happy to help you out. So yeah, I appreciate you just messaging and saying um, thing. And from Brazil, that's cool. If you join, then I think we officially touch every continent globally. Let me see. I think so. Hmm. Yeah, maybe except for Russia and China, which I'm sure we're gonna get people from soon enough. But yeah, so by all means. Ba ba ba. Okay, let's see if this thing actually goes through. One more try, and then we're done, guys. We're done. I promise. We're done. We're done. We're gonna wrap things up here. Public URL. Why is it? Why is it giving me a public? Why is it asking for a public URL? Put public URI, project name, some secret. Jeez, I don't know which secret it's asking for. I'm just gonna keep putting in the same secret here because I think it's doing the wrong thing. But anyway, public URI. Yeah, okay, great. Verified Wrangler painted public. Perfect. Now all the required secrets. Deployed distribution. Okay, I'm gonna try one more time. One more time. If not, totally fine. We've got through the hard part. We just have a configuration and the URL mistake is used. Why is the stream so behind? Oh, you know what? I just realized that it was just lagging behind. Okay. Summary. Okay, great. So let's go back here. Refresh. Click on this. Okay, that's good. Click on this guy. Okay, authentication failed. Not the end of the world. We know exactly what's going on. It's just a nuanced configuration of the back end and the front end. In either case, we've made significant progress. And what we're going to do next week, we're just going to wrap up the pieces. We're going to focus on the AI stuff. Listen, guys, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate every one of you, even if it's a very small group. I appreciate every single one of you. And thank you for just join and say hi. Let me know you appreciate the effort that I'm making here. It really actually helps. Like you, I don't think you know how hard it is to come on a live stream from 1 p.m. all the way to 4 p.m. And then have very little people on the chat, so the energy level drops. So any little message helps to just sort of boost the energy level. That being said, though, I'm doing this whether somebody shows up or not. I will do my part. So you guys have yourself a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you in the group. And like I said, message me if there's any single problem. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Goodbye.